What up? What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic Friday evening. Hope everyone had a fantastic day coming off work, school, whatever the case may be. I am your guy, Sports PSP. Along with me, here comes the panel. I got my Georgia guys, BRF Sports. Please go like and subscribe to his IG, TikTok. Also, go check him out on the Undisputed World Champ podcast, another podcast that he is on. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, I've been doing good. Crazy week of work. Well, I actually got one more day of work because this is my Saturday to work. So we're gonna get this in, and I'm probably heading to bed as soon as I get up off of here. But it's always a pleasure to share the stage with y'all two gentlemen. And speaking of crazy weeks, boy, this has been a crazy sports week, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Man, who are you telling? It's been to say there's been a crazy sports week would be an enormous understatement. But of course, we cannot start the show without my main man, undisputed world champ, all the way from Columbus, Georgia. How you doing, man?
Man, always a privilege, an honor, and whatever else you want to call it, a privilege, an honor, and a pleasure to be right here on the Garden State's go-to podcast, the highlight of Friday nights, the Sports PSP podcast. Don't forget to patent that PSP.
I won't. I won't. And on a serious note, before we start off the show, hearts and prayers go to Irv Gotti and his family. Irv Gotti passed away. Fellas, any final words for Irv Gotti on the passing and stuff?
Uh, it's unfortunate that people never get the flowers while they can still smell them, and I hate to, to quote the great Kanye, people never get the flowers while they can still smell them, because when you really think about Irv Gotti, you think about the rebirth of Def Jam in the late 90s. You think about the rebirth of Def Jam. First thing he did was sign DMX, one of the greatest of all time. Then Ja Rule. Then had one of the biggest collaborations with Ja Rule, DMX, and Jay-Z. Produce the hits that you love. So, big shout out to Irv Gotti, man, because he was instrumental in bringing the East Coast back in the late 90s and early 2000s. So you got to give, if you can give any mogul that credit, you have to give that to Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti was a staple in the music business. And just because certain beefs, music beefs, overshadows that doesn't take away from the accomplishments. And let's not forget what he did on BET with Tales, hip hop Tales. So pay tribute and recognize people for what they have done for the industry that we love, listening to, because Irv Gotti was responsible for a lot of music. He was very instrumental in the late 90s resurgence, not only of Def Jam, but of the East Coast, because people were saying that, oh yeah, the East Coast fell off. And guess what? DMX, a lot of those guys was taking it back to the streets. Hey, remember, that's the first thing. I think we went over this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about greatest DMX moment. The first thing he did was made sure that they said in that video, let's take it back to the streets, blank,
Get
blank.
at me, dog.
Yes. So big shout out to Irv Gotti. I salute you. And I appreciate everything that you've done in this music industry, because half of the songs you're listening to from Murder Inc. and Def Jam, guess what? Mr. Irving Lorenzo Gotti has something to do with it. So I salute you, Mr. Gotti.
Absolutely. BRF.
Man, I'm gonna just say this: if you were around in if you were around in the late '90s and you try to say with a straight face you didn't listen to Murder Inc. music at the time, I'm gonna call you out. You lying. You BSing, because I remember early 2000s when 50 Cent got hot, and that, and the infamous beef, and everybody try to be all like, oh man, we ain't listening to Ja Rule, we ain't listening to Ja Rule. Yeah, you were in the late '90s. Don't lie to the public. Yeah, you were. You were listening to Ja. Ja and Ashanti and all those Murder Inc. artists that really like kind of help, like Champ said, put the East Coast back on the map. I mean, just the music then it got the ball back rolling for a lot of what you heard throughout the 2000s into the 2010s as far as like bringing the East Coast back to prominence. And shout out to Irv Gotti. I mean, you kind of hate it. It kind of feels like as a producer, he didn't get the flowers that he should have got because he was a really really good producer. He was really good, and he really kind of helped was one of those that kind of set the standard for what the East Coast music game is today. So you really have to like I'll just say this, even though, there's stuff being said in social media and all this stuff, you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Petty, Mr. Petty White himself, regardless of what he's saying, Irv Gotti as a producer, he you felt him, and you listen to his music. You listen to his music then, and you still gonna listen to his music now. So definitely prayers and condolences to Irv Gotti's family, and we definitely want to just say, we appreciate the music you brought us, the artists you brought us, and you don't get to suffer anymore. You don't get to suffer anymore because you've been fighting seizures and stuff like that for a while, and it's unfortunate, but you know what? You're in a better place, and you don't get to suffer anymore for it. So we shout you out, and we're gonna continue to listen to your music, and your music gonna continue to be played for as long as music exists. So we definitely want to send prayers and condolences out to the family, and just just all our love and support goes to them. So it's a trying time. So definitely rest in peace to Herb Gotti.
Yes, RIP. Definitely provided a lot of great artists during his time of Def Jam, Murder Inc., of course, Ja Rule, Ashanti, Charlie Baltimore, of course, Champ. Let's not forget with DMX, man. Gone, but never forgotten. So before we start off the show, let's have a quick moment of silence, real quick. Thank you. All right, everyone. Now, of course, as my man, Undisputed World Champ, always says, highlight of Friday nights. Last Saturday, no one expected this trade to come. Luka Doncic traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, I'm reading an article here from Dave McMenamin of ESPN. In a blockbuster trade that figures to impact the Western Conference balance of power for years to come, the Lakers, Mavericks, and Utah Jazz completed a three-team trade that sends Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers and Anthony Davis to Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers received Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris from the Mavericks, who announced the trade Sunday morning. Dallas acquired Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. The Utah Jazz, on the other hand, received Jalen Hood-Schifino and the Los Angeles Lakers' 2025 second-round pick and the Dallas Mavericks' 2025 second-round selection. All of us, I can say for all of us, we were totally astounded with the trade. Because why would the Dallas Mavericks trade a 25-year-old superstar who's made 5 consecutive first-team All-NBAs, a perennial All-Star, a perennial MVP candidate, who led the NBA in scoring, who can average around 38 and 9, who's been to multiple Western Conference Finals appearances, an NBA Finals appearance? Well, it's been reported that Luka Doncic has had weight and conditioning problems. Matter of fact, he reached up to the high 260s. I think the reason why they traded Luka because they had enough of Luka's weight and conditioning problems. This is not the first time with Luka with weight and conditioning problems. Back in 2021, it was reported that when he showed up to training camp, he was at 260 pounds, 30 pounds above his listed weight. I think, look, and I saw that press conference with Nico Harrison, the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, and Jason Kidd. Boy, Jason Kidd looked disgusted. He looked disgusted. It looked like to me, I'm speculating, looked like he wanted to slap the bleep out of Nico Harrison, because how in the hell do you trade a 25-year-old generational talent even if he's had weight and conditioning problems? And the Lakers, they did pick up the Williams kid from Charlotte after they traded the guy who they drafted out of Tennessee. I think the Lakers, so far, they're looking really good, champ. And after all, you are the Lakers fan. The only concerns that I have with the trade, with the Luka trade, how is he and Braun going to play together? Because both are ball dominant. Now, you needed a point guard, especially the fact that you moved on from D'Angelo Russell. So I think Luka is there to play the one. You're going to have to let Braun play the 3 position, because if the two are together, both are ball dominant, and unlike Braun, Luka doesn't move well off the ball, and he's not known for defense. So those are the concerns there. The other concern I have with Luka in Los Angeles, and it has nothing to do with the Lakers or him living up to the Lakers' expectations, the lifestyle in Los Angeles. If you having weight and conditioning problems in Dallas, what do you think you're going to be heading into Los Angeles with the lifestyle, with the parties, with the atmosphere there? Granted, he does have LeBron James there for the next couple of years. What better way to learn from one of the best, one of the greatest of all time in LeBron James, not only on, but also off the court? So I think if anybody can get to Luka's ear, it should be LeBron. But in the end, it's up to Luka. I think his weight and conditioning was the real reason why Dallas just traded him. And besides, they didn't want to pay him the supermax, which is 5 years, $345 million. So Luka ended up missing about $116 million. A lot of money. So as dumbfounded as this trade was, it is on Luka Doncic at the end of the day. Luka has to accept culpability in this one, because if Luka Doncic was in shape and conditioning, there would be no trade. Luka gave them a reason for the Mavericks to trade him. I don't agree with the trade. I think it was a bad. I don't agree with the trade at all. And again, what makes it so shocking, they didn't even inform Luka. They didn't even tell him that he was going to get traded. Normally, a player of Luka's caliber, it's usually him demanding a trade, not the other way around. You don't trade someone of Luka Doncic's caliber, who's made, like I said, 5 consecutive first-team All-NBAs. You don't trade a guy like Luka who's giving you that great production, regardless of his weight and conditioning problems. This has got to be the craziest. This has got to be the trade of the century or the trade of all time, because no one imagined or anticipated this trade. Undisputed world champ, as a Los Angeles Lakers fan as you are, I'll let you go. The floor is yours.
Showtime! It's showtime once again, baby. Okay, all serious. Let's take off my funny hat and put on my professional hat. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just gonna be real. I know that Luka got the reason why he got traded. Me and Luka was down the street at Daiquiris and Po' Boys one night, and the Po' Boys with the oysters and gator tails, it get good after a good night.
Were you hanging out with Zion as well?
Yeah, a couple of cans of Foster's, stuff like that. That'll get the juices going. But in all seriousness, look, I really believe this. I believe that this was a business trade. I believe that they was not comfortable. He would have been the highest paid player in the NBA, period. And I don't think that a lot of these owners are comfortable with paying that kind of money to these players, because they're on tier 2 contracts at this point. Once you start paying players $300 million contracts of that magnitude, it's only a matter of time before it goes into 500,000 and gets heavier consequences. And people don't understand this. those contracts have consequences on the cap room. You paying a player $86 million a year, you can't get nobody else. You can't get him any help. You having that one star on your team, granted, it puts butts in seats, but how many championships are you going to get with just one player? It's not that many players in this league that can, make chicken salad out of chicken, what. Not that many players. LeBron is probably the only player, LeBron and maybe a few players, and Larry Bird and Magic. They're the only players that I've seen just come into a place automatically, and guess what? You're a contender. So there's not that many guys like that. So I think it was more of a business decision of not wanting to pay him $346 million and pay it. I don't think owners are that comfortable yet. And look for more trades like this as guys start approaching these $300 million contracts. This is not the last time we're going to see this type of trade. Mark my words. This is not the last time we're going to see this type of trade. Now, as far as Luka goes, guess what? You do need to do a better job on your strength and your conditioning and things of like that. But the thing is, owners in the front office, I believe they do lie. Because the thing is, unlike Zion, this has never interfered with his play. Unlike Zion, Luka's performance never suffered because of how much his weight fluctuated. Unlike Zion. So they can put that excuse if they want to, but it's in my humble opinion that they was not comfortable with paying him that max and with using up all of that cap room that they had with that big old contract. Because like I said, what are you going to do after he signed? You can only sign one of those supermax players. And I don't think the owners are yet comfortable with paying those players at this point in time that type of money, Mr. Watson. But the thing is, I really don't believe that. As far as the Dallas Mavericks go, look, I hope that you are right for your sake. I hope that you are able to win a championship with this group that you have. Because if you don't, it's gonna go down in history as one of the worst trades in NBA history. And Luka is only 25 years old. Last time we had a superstar of that age in Los Angeles, there was a bright future ahead of him. Even after winning 3 championships with the great Shaquille O'Neal. Rest in peace to the late great Kobe. So this is the first time we've gotten a superstar not even in his prime. He ain't even touched his ceiling as of yet. This is the first time since Kobe, when Kobe was young, that we had a superstar that big in Los Angeles. And I'm not talking about, we all know LeBron, but I'm talking about very, very young. I mean, and very, not even in his prime. He at least, if he does it right, has 10 wonderful years left, if not 15. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. But Dallas, you better hope for your sake that you can get a championship with this group, because if not, it's going to go down in history as a huge blunder, because you traded an all-generational player to get Anthony Davis, which I understand he has been healthy over the course of the past 2 years, and this is the healthiest he's ever been, but he does have a history of injuries, and he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any younger. So to put things in perspective, am I going to say any team won at this point? No, they both won. The Lakers have a superstar that after LeBron leaves, they're not only going to be able to put some butts in the seats, but they're going to be able to attract free agents. Who doesn't want to play with Luka? Who doesn't want to play with a Luka Doncic? They're going to be able to attract free agents.
Not to mention LA.
Yeah. When you are winning and you have a promising player like a Luka, that attracts free agents. And it's going to be interesting to see this. The Lakers are the 5th seed in the West right about now. So if they can come together, him and LeBron, because LeBron is playing lights out right about now. If they can figure out each other in a quick moment. Might be something ugly going down the stretch at the All-Star weekend. I don't know. But big ups to the NBA because the NFL got y'all on Christmas, but y'all turned around and say, oh, it's like that. Oh, we're gonna get y'all right on y'all. We're gonna make this trade in the middle of y'all biggest week in the world.
Isn't it shocking, champ? Because again, we were talking a week before the Super Bowl and on the day of the Royal Rumble.
Yes, on the day of, the NBA completely, I don't really see, and I could be wrong. And like I said, that's how come I'm glad I got you two here to check. I could be wrong, but the NBA news has dominated this week. People, the Super Bowl has become an afterthought at this point.
Shocking to say it has ever since they traded Luka, and then later on with the De'Aaron Fox trade, which we'll get into, and as well as with Jimmy Butler, that's been the talk. And look, maybe that could be the blueprint for the NBA because again, before these trades, we weren't even talking much about the NBA. We were just talking about football, the stories and stuff, and we will get into that. But man, NBA, they really did their thing. Adam Silver's kind of looking back and saying, okay. We kind of lost our ratings a little bit, but hey, I kind of like the attention we are getting right now. But Champ, you did just Champ. Hey, shout out to Rob Pelinka. He did his thing. And even it was reported when they introduced the idea to the Mavs owner, correct me if I'm wrong, Champ, he even laughed about the Luka trade.
Yeah, he laughed. But the thing is this, like I said, I don't think that this was, they're going to say we have concerns about his weight, but his performance has not suffered. It's one thing when your performance suffers when you gain a little bit of weight. Trust me, I know. When my weight fluctuated when I was in the amateurs, guess what? My performance suffered, and in boxing, you can't do that. But I digress. But when your performance does not suffer at all and you are steady pace, and I think he's top 5 in the league right now and scoring right now, and he's missed time. So, like I said, I don't think it was so much of his conditioning. If they would have traded Zion and they said that, okay, right on. I understand completely.
Given the fact that he has a weight clause.
Yes, absolutely. But when you trade Luka and you're talking about, his conditioning wasn't in question, his performance never suffered. His performance has never suffered. So I believe that, and like I said, I could be wrong, but I believe wholeheartedly that the NBA was not ready to play a player $80 million a year because it was only a matter of time before it reached a higher echelon. And like I said earlier, do not be surprised if you hear in the future about another player in his prime getting traded in order to avoid playing him a $300 and something million contract. I don't think the NBA is ready for that right about now. I mean, even in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes, when he got a $500 million contract, that's 10 years. That's 10 years out. That's $50 million a year. And even as we speak, he's making restructures every single year. But I don't think nobody was ready to pay a player that type of money per year. That's 86 million a year, and then it would have only been a matter of time before a $100 million a year contract came out in the NBA. And I don't think a player was ready for that. Remember this. Remember, back in 1996. Remember, the Orlando Magic let Shaq get away because they wasn't ready to pay that type of money for Shaq. It took the Lakers in order to pay that money.
Isn't it a coincidence, Champ? Because again, in 2019, the Pelicans, they traded Anthony Davis to the Lakers because they didn't want to give Anthony Davis that amount of money.
Yes. A lot of these trades are a little bit more simplistic than we put on. We want to say, oh yeah, it's because of conditioning. It's because of this. When a lot of the time it's just business. I'm not willing to pay you this type of money right now. Especially with the ratings the way it was. as a businessman, you have to think about those things as an owner. And not only that, I think the Dallas Mavericks are getting ready to build a new complex with a casino and everything like that. That type of things, these stadiums are becoming their own amusement parks. If you look at the new stadium layout for the Cleveland Browns Stadium, they have a shopping mall in there and everything. When you look at the new layout for the Buffalo Bills Stadium, it has a shopping mall. It has a little bit of everything. They were getting ready to open up a complex in Dallas with a casino in there, a new casino in there, from my knowledge. So that stuff costs money. And guess what? When you have a player taking up that type of cap space, you're not going to be able to sign too many other players in order to put you in the position to win. So guess what? I will take the risk of paying an Anthony Davis who's playing lights out at this point than to a year from now having to pay Luka almost $100 million a year. And guess what? That contract is only going to go, the next couple contracts is only going to go up. In a minute, we're going to hear about $400 million for 4 years. That's a $100 million contract a year. And guess what? Somebody's going to get traded because they're not willing to pay for that. So I think it's more of a business thing than it was, oh, yeah, he's not. But they need it. It's kind of like you trying to leave a place or leave the club and you're looking for a reason to leave. And the first thing you do is you look up at the sky. Oh man, the ceiling leaking. Let me get up out of here before I slip and fall. That's what that was. They just was looking for a reason. And the only valid reason was, his conditioning. It hasn't affected his play. So, and he's 25 years old.
We've seen it before, champ. I mean, James Harden. Remember when he was in Houston? I mean, looked like he came from eating them Hardy burgers or whatever, and then when he was traded to Brooklyn, he looked like skinny Harden.
That's what we call cutting weight fast. It ain't nothing to do that. Just put on that nylon suit, zip yourself up for a couple of days. You'll sweat it off. But the thing was, with that situation, it was different because it's just like James Harden just didn't want to be there anymore.
He didn't. And it's not like Luka didn't want to be there. It's just the fact that, you know what? But I wish they would have told him about the trade. The fact that you didn't tell him, you didn't even inform him, Luka, we're going to look into trading you. That's unprofessional on the Dallas Mavericks part because wait a minute, you would think of a player, especially one of Luka's caliber, you would have informed him at least.
Well, a lot of these organizations do the players wrong. And that's why I say there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty in this business because guess what? And the thing is, and the funniest part about that, I guarantee you, when he goes back to Dallas, some fans, I didn't say all, some fans are going to boo him.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. But the thing is, there's no loyalty in this business. That's why I come out and say, hey, if you want to be traded, say you want to be traded. Because guess what? When they do it, it's business. But when one of the players asked for a trade, you're a traitor. No, look what they did to Luka. Luka said he wanted to be a Maverick for life. Mark Cuban even came out and said, hey, if it comes down to trading Luka or divorcing my spouse, goodbye, spouse. He said he's been on record in saying that. That's how deep his root. That's how deep Luka's roots is. Plus, he's cool with Dirk from the Ritz, with Dirk, the greatest Mavericks player of all time. So, like I said, this is a new owner. If Mark Cuban was still the owner, Luka would probably the majority. If he was still the majority owner, I would say Luka will probably still be in Dallas. But now that this new ownership is here, I'm not sure that they're comfortable enough to pay him that type of money at this point. And I think they're looking like, hey, we pay him this type of money, then who else are we going to get? How are we going to spend this money elsewhere? And how are we going to get other players to come here in free agency? Because you have to look at all of that. You just can't look at one star player because we've seen one-star players, one-show games be on certain teams and they not do anything. Hell, Michael Jordan before Scottie Pippen, he was a one-man game, couldn't do much but get to the first round and lose. Same thing with Kobe. But this isn't the first time we've seen something like this, and it probably won't be the last. Like I said, Shaq left in free agency because the Orlando Magic at first, I will say, and I do emphasize at first, wasn't willing to pay him the supermax of $120 million, which back then that was big. Today it's peanuts. But there's a lot of teams that's going to be moving on from a lot of players because they're not willing to pay them the supermax. And it's as simple as that. I know these teams try to make you think it's something else, but it's really not. It's just business. I'm trying to save money.
Either way, with Luka's conditioning and stuff like that, Luka get your conditioning together. I mean, you make a champ looking skinny nowadays, man. That's incredibly hard to do.
Yes, it's incredibly hard to do, man. Stay out of daiquiris and po' boys, Luka, man. Don't be like me, man. Stay off that Grand Marnier. Stay off that Don Julio. Stay off that Popeye. Stay off all that stuff, man. Get you some water and go out there and run, man. Don't be like me, man. You making hundreds of millions of dollars, and guess what? If they offer me that type of money in order to get all this off me, hey, guess what? I'll be making trips to the bathroom every single day. So guess what? Hey,
BRF.
In the great words of Chris Jericho, Nico Harrison, you stupid idiot. What are we like? Look, I mean, I understand the whole the conditioning and the weight and all that other stuff. I'm sorry to trade a guy who's gotten you to 2 Western Conference Finals, who basically with his play got you to the NBA Finals last season. To trade a guy like that is more deep rooted than just there was weight and it was his weight and conditioning issues. I'm like, bro, you've had this problem with him before, and I think that year he got you to the Western Conference Finals the first time. Oh man, it's more deep rooted than that. I'm sorry to trade a top 5 player in the world. We talk about hitting ceilings. This man ain't touched the light on the ceiling fans yet. We talking about hitting ceiling. He ain't close to that yet. And to trade him, it's got to be more deep rooted than that. Like, I feel like as far as like short term, long term, I feel like with the Lakers, I don't like the depth of their front court right now, because I don't care what anybody says. Jackson Hayes as your starting center, I don't think is going to get the job done. That's just how I feel. Jackson Hayes is not going to do it. He's not going to do it. So maybe they pull something down the line. I mean, I think the trade deadline's like pass or whatnot. Maybe they can get a big. I'm sorry, Jackson Hayes just ain't going to do it. Like, I look at short-term, long-term stuff for this. Mavericks, you basically got a 2-year window to win a championship. I think you got a 2-year window to win a championship, because I feel like that team is currently constructed. If they're 100% and they're like all systems go, and Anthony Davis continues to stay on the floor, and he's not making his debut yet in the Mavericks next game. He's not making his debut yet, but that I'm pretty sure the next game is coming. So we get to see that full rotation on display. The first few games with the Dallas Mavericks is going to tell a lot as far as what they're going to do for the rest of the season. Their front court depth, their defense, how everything rolls with them. Because right now you're probably looking at a starting lineup of Kyrie at the point, Clay at the 2, PJ Washington at the 3, AD at the 4, and Derek Lively at the 5. That front court's scary. I don't care what anybody says. The way PJ Washington's turned it on this year, and then with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford coming off the bench, rim protection, gives you scoring on the inside, gives you athleticism, bigs that can run the floor in transition, and then AD, who's still a top 5 defensive player in the world, who's still a top 10, in my opinion, overall player in the world. The first few games is going to tell a lot about the Mavericks and what they're going to do as far as like the short-term games, because I feel like they got this in the short term. Because I feel like this team, if the chemistry can come alive and they can really develop, just kind of build that relationship with each other as far as like understanding how the game's going to flow and all that, I feel like this team can do some damage. But at the same time, I will say this though. LeBron James and Luka Doncic is going to be. I think right now they're the scariest duo in the league. I think they are the scariest duo in the league. What the hell is Nico Harrison thinking, giving LeBron James, Luka Doncic of all people? I mean, we thought the LeBron AD combo was arguably the scariest combo in the NBA. LeBron and Luka, there is no argument. They are the scariest duo in the league. There is no argument in terms of offense. Both guys being able to create shots, being able to play make, being able to just do whatever they want to do with a basketball in their hand. I think they are the scariest duo in the league. So the main thing with the Lakers in the short term is where's the depth? Who's going to be the depth outside of Austin Reeves for the team? Who's going to do it outside of him? Because now you're having to rely on a Gabe Vincent. I do like Rui Hachimura. I've always liked him. I liked him back in his Washington Wizard days. I've
I do
always liked
too.
him. I think I saw. Yeah, exactly. So I think you look. It's basically you got LeBron and Luka, and then your second tier is probably Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and then after that you're relying on like a Gabe Vincent. You're relying on a Jackson Hayes. You're relying. I mean, and you traded Dalton Connect, which was like dude is a rookie and is already a walking bucket, and you traded him. Now I will say this though. I
They
was
needed a
talking about
big.
Jackson Hayes. I was saying this about Jackson Hayes. Mark Williams,
Yes,
don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him. I
athletic
love
and can do the pick and roll.
exactly. Great rim protection, can finish at the basket. I love that. I think he immediately slots in as your one. I think the Luka Doncic deal isn't as impactful without Mark Williams. Bringing Mark Williams in to solidify the five. Now you got something. You got Luka probably running the one. You got Austin Reeves running the two. You got LeBron at the three. You got Rui at the four. You got Mark Williams at the five. I like that lineup a hell of a lot better than I
And
would have with
Jackson
Jackson
Hayes.
Hayes.
Yeah,
At
because
least with Jackson Hayes is more slotted. He's better. He can be your big off the bench, going up
yes,
against second team players,
I agree.
being able to out rebound second team players. He can give you a little scoring. He can give you some rim protection. He's better slotted off the bench. This helps the Lakers rotation so many ways. Bringing in the Mark Williams,
Not
and
only
this
that,
is
he
why
provides more physicality than Jackson Hayes.
exactly, which is why I think with a Mark Williams, I think the Mavericks, the gap in the short term would have been a lot wider if LA hadn't brought Mark Williams in. The gap in the short term isn't as bad because the Lakers being 30 and 19, fifth in the West with this lineup that they're about to run out on a nightly basis, and then the depth doesn't look so bad now bringing the Mark Williams in because now you have guys you can slot to the bench who can kind of do their own thing. Gabe Vincent is still a pretty good shooter. He can score. He can score on second team defenses. Jackson Hayes can be physical against second team players. The Lakers got something with this. I really do. I think they can really make some noise with this if everything falls in line. I want to see these two play each other in the playoffs. I want to see these two teams play each other in the playoff, either in the first round or the semifinals. I want to see these teams. I want to see them. I want to see this because I want to see how. I just want to see how they go up against each other. I want to see as the games start to roll in. I want to see the schemes for both teams. I want to see how they play from game to game. I want to see how they're able to adapt. I want to see how they're able to adjust to each other because I think both of these teams could, if the seeds fall into place, these teams could legit play each other in the Western Conference Finals. I really think they can. Honestly, the Luka trade does bring excitement with it. So it's just like I said, it's just a matter of how these teams adapt after the fact. So I'm excited to see it. But Nico Harrison, you are still an idiot because like some of the
Idiot. I
reports
mean,
that
he delusional. Did you see Jason Kidd's reaction?
Jason Kidd had that like look, man. I saw that press conference and I saw that look on
No, he
Jason
was.
Kidd's face. Jason Kidd looked like that's exactly how he looked. That's exactly how he looked. That's exactly how he looked. Jason Kidd looked like you know what Jason Kidd reminded me of? Jason Kidd reminded me of that. Jason Kidd reminded me of that Arthur meme where you look up at Arthur.
The
He
fifth.
looks all he looks all content. He looks all happy and stuff like that. And then you pan down and you see his fist, and his fist is like balled up like this, just ready to punch him in the face. That's what that's what it reminded me of. Jason Kidd had this look on his face like, dude, what are you doing? Not just the fact that you traded Luka Doncic, but the fact that this was like 11th, 12th hour. You didn't tell us. So let me tell you something. That morning. I woke up at like 6 o'clock, and I woke up. I'm trying to wake myself up, so I get to my phone. I open IG, and the first thing I see is Luka Doncic in a Lakers uniform, Photoshop, and I'm like, y'all, what? This a prank, right? And I'm like, nah, this ain't real. This ain't real.
Shams got hacked.
I thought Shams legit got hacked. And then I go to Google, and then I see all the news articles, and I'm just like, what the hell did Mavericks just do? And now you see the reports. The craziest report that I have heard since the trade. Check this out. This is the craziest report I've heard. Apparently, Nico Harris's wife was obsessed with Luka to the point she was calling Nico Harrison Nico Doncic. And it made him so uncomfortable. Like, straight up, I saw this. I'm just like, let me tell you something. If it's deep rooted to the point where Nico wanted to get rid of Luka just from the standpoint he didn't want that kind of unwanted attention there, fire him. Fire that man 2 weeks ago. Fire that man yesterday. And Nico Harrison doesn't exactly have a good reputation as far as like being a leader in certain situations anyway, because you remember he was with Nike and he messed up the whole Steph Curry campaign. He called Steph Curry Seth.
He did.
I mean, the dude has a knack for messing up, if I would like to say so myself. So I think with the trade, it kind of works negative from the standpoint of, yeah, if the Mavericks don't win a championship, in my opinion, in the next 2 to 3 years, top 5 worst trade in sports history. And we got to remember, AD is still a top 10 player in the world. But if the Mavericks don't win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years, top 5 worst deal in league history.
You know who else?
But the Lakers also need to solidify this on their end too, because LeBron about to retire the next year too. I think he's going to play next year, but he's about to go. They have to solidify this trade as soon as LeBron leaves, from the standpoint of when LeBron leaves, somebody got to come in. They got to replace him, and it can't be no mid-tier player. I'll put it to you like this. It can't be no Harrison Barnes. It can't be no mid-tier player like that. It's got to be somebody big. It's got to be a big name. Like just throwing names out there. It's got to be like an Anthony Edwards level type. It's got to be a Devin Booker level type. It's got to be somebody like that. They got to replace LeBron James with somebody up there, because the reason why the Lakers did this was because they know LeBron's getting ready to retire. Luka's star power is going to be able to recruit people to come to LA. I'm sorry. Luka Doncic in LA, if you are a big name player and you see that, you can't sit here and look me in the face with a straight face and say you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to go to play with somebody like a Luka Doncic. You are going to go in a heartbeat. If Kyrie can go to Dallas for Luka Doncic, you best believe somebody's going to go to Los Angeles for him. So that's the main reason why the Lakers made that trade, and I understand completely why they do it, because they know they're getting ready to lose LeBron. So you got to have that continuation of the box office appeal that the Los Angeles Lakers are, and Luka Doncic gives you that because he's a top 5 player in the world, giving you 38 and 9 in his sleep. I mean, the dude dropped what? The dude has like what, a 60, 70 point triple double in his career. I mean, the dude is like that. The dude is like that. So, but the Lake, like I said, they just have to solidify that trade on their end. They got to bring somebody else when LeBron's getting ready to retire. But it's still just it's. I didn't know what to say when it first happened. I didn't know what to say because I thought it was a prank. I thought Shams got hacked. And then when he hit the tweet, and then when he hit that one tweet where he says, "Yes, this is real," I'm just like, "Oh my god!" And just I'm still like I'm still at a loss for words. But if you analyze it from a basketball perspective, I don't think both teams can really go wrong here as long as they're producing and they're continuing to win. But I mean, this is gonna if they meet each other in the playoffs, it's gonna be probably one of the more anticipated playoff series we've seen in a long time. So the only thing I'm gonna say, in the words of Terrell Owens, the only thing I'm gonna say is get your popcorn ready because this the rest of this season after the All Star break, this gonna be wild. This gonna be something to behold.
Go ahead, champ.
I gotta ask y'all this because you know it's coming, and I'm just trying to beat one of the. I'm just trying to throw this idea out there before one of the talking heads on TV try to say it. If LeBron is able to win, what with Luka? Are these GOAT talks gonna start? Are these GOAT talks gonna start back up again? And can we consider him the GOAT at this point, or does he still have a lot more to work for?
There are going to be conversations of it. Needless to say.
I mean, if LeBron gets another, I mean, the GOAT talks will probably be as intense as they've ever been. And I seriously think, from my perspective, I think LeBron, if he was to win one with Luka, from my perspective, because I'm still on the line that Michael Jordan is the GOAT of the NBA. I'm almost ready to put LeBron there now. To be honest with you, I just still like from the perspective of as long as LeBron has played and as great as he has been, Mike almost has done the same amount of damage statistically in less years. And people and I feel like Michael from an offensive standpoint, even though he wasn't the point, even though he's not the point creator that LeBron is, the assist guy that LeBron is, but he's still one of the greatest in history as far as point creation for his team. That says a lot to the skill level of what Michael Jordan was. But man, if they think GOAT talks are bad now, LeBron gets another one with Luka before he retires, boy, I am staying out of the ring. I'm staying out the ring for them conversation. I'm letting them have it.
Well, look, Nico Harrison is being reported on a serious note that he has hired full-time security to guard his home after the Luka Doncic trade. He's even been subjected to death threats. Security is going to have to be beefed up. Look, I understand people are, and rightfully so, frustrated with the trade, but that is totally unnecessary. I wish Nico Harrison and his family nothing but the best. Wish him nothing but well. But I understand fans that you have every right to be frustrated and furious with the trade, but not to the point of death threats. But what is so shocking to me, guys, and I'm surprised no one brought this up. Guess who also won? Jerry Jones. Because we talked about all the bad moves from the Dallas. From him hiring Brian Schottenheimer as his head coach to Matt Eberflus as his defensive coordinator. Just when you thought that the Dallas Cowboys made bad decisions, Nico Harrison was like, hold on, let me go hold on to my beer. I'm going to make a horrible move.
Jerry Jones is not the worst executive in Dallas anymore.
Lord have mercy. BRF, I'm going to let you go first on this one. What were your thoughts about the De'Aaron Fox trade?
Oh, this might have been my favorite trade of the entire deadline. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You gave Victor Wembanyama a top 10 current point guard in the NBA. Like seriously. I honestly, serious to God, I think this was like my favorite trade of the entire deadline. When I heard De'Aaron Fox was going into San Antonio, I'm like, San Antonio's going to make the playoffs. San Antonio is about to make the playoffs, at least the play-in. But they're going to make. I think they're going to make the playoffs with this move because De'Aaron Fox, bro, the depth of the San Antonio Spurs needs to be analyzed and respected now. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is starting at the 2. Chris Paul is your starting point guard. How unfair is that from the standpoint that Chris Paul at his age is still productive and De'Aaron Fox is your 2?
Not to mention they play defense.
And they play defense. I mean, like I said, their wing depth needs to be studied. Like you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Chris Paul, you have Stephon Castle, you have Devin Vassell. You still got Keldon Johnson. He ain't gone nowhere yet. He still give you defense. Like their wing depth needs to be studied and respected now in San Antonio. And you got Jeremy Sohan. He's about to come back. He's trying to get back from an injury. You know what he can do defensively. He's great on ball as far as being able to steal and get rebounds in his own right. I mean, San Antonio's got a legit shot to make the playoffs this year with this roster currently constructed. Because I like what all they bring to the table. I mean, it's crazy. De'Aaron Fox is going to start at the 2, but Chris Paul needs a break. I just moved De'Aaron Fox back over to the 1 because he's a top 10 point guard in the league. Just move him over to the 1, and then you can still keep De'Aaron Fox and Wemby on the floor at the same time. That pick and roll is going to be so nasty. That pick and roll is going to be so nasty. Them lobs and just that was probably my favorite trade of the entire deadline because of how it solidified the San Antonio Spurs. I really think the San Antonio Spurs should make the playoffs after getting De'Aaron Fox. Because like I said, De'Aaron Fox is still a top 10 point guard in this league. Some people make a case to slide him in the top 5. I don't, but he's still a top 10 point guard in the league. I don't think top 5 is ridiculous, but I think it's a definite top 10 point guard lock. So that was my favorite. Like I said, this is my favorite trade of the entire deadline. I just like how it solidified the depth of the guards and the wing, and it's defense everywhere with this team now. I mean, it's like if you're like the 3-and-D guys, if you're guards or your wings or whatnot, and you have to see the San Antonio Spurs now, like what do you do? What all of this defensive potential that you have to see on the night that you have to see now? It's like it's crazy. I think the De'Aaron Fox trade, in my opinion, the De'Aaron Fox was my favorite trade of the entire trading deadline. I knew he was going to get traded, and then they started talking about San Antonio. They talked about some other teams. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be the Spurs because the Spurs just make too much sense, and it's the best fit of all the teams that were trying to go after him. San Antonio was the best fit for De'Aaron Fox, and lo and behold, they pulled it off. So, and the crazy thing about it, Stephon Castle was supposed to be part of the deal, but De'Aaron Fox wanted Stephon Castle to stay. So all Sacramento got was some picks. Stephon Castle was supposed to go to Sacramento, but because De'Aaron Fox wanted him there, Stephon Castle is still there. So just imagine seeing him as Fox and Castle on the floor at the same time, D'ing up your backcourt. You go have fun with that.
Champ.
Oh man. In the future, could we be on the verge of seeing the Lakers and the Spurs on their way back to the conference finals, fighting for championships like we did in the 2000s? It is a distinct possibility. Hey, you know what I love about the Spurs? You have your stars on that team, but they know how to win with depth. They know how to win with depth. When you really look at those championship teams in the 2000s and the 2010s, they won with depth. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget the team that beat LeBron and the Miami Heat. That team that came off the bench, we used to call them the second wave. And there was a lot of rumors that they could have been like a. Remember how weak the East was back then? They said, "Hey, the bench from the San Antonio Spurs would have probably been the 8th seed in the East." So, hey, De'Aaron Fox and Victor, that could very well be the next Tony Parker and the modern day Tony Parker and Tim Duncan. That could very well end up being that. That has the potential in order to be that. That's how much potential that has. Not to mention they're learning from a veteran like a Chris Paul, who, although he hasn't won a championship, he's made a lot out of a little when it came to certain teams. Remember what he did with that Oklahoma City Thunder team? They didn't expect to go anywhere. Yeah. So I love the depth that this team. They have solid veteran leadership on this team with Chris Paul and a lot of veterans on that team. And they have the young players on this team who's going to be the foundation for many years to come. I love this trade, man. What I love about this trade week was the powerhouses of the NBA are truly back. The San Antonio Spurs, the Lakers, just to name a few. They are those two who was instrumental in the popularity of the NBA back in the 2000s and the 2010s. Those teams are truly back. And it's going to be interesting to see how quickly these teams can win championships with the rosters that they have. Because if you really look at it, Wemby is maturing beyond his years each and every year. Truth be told, his rookie year, if it had not been for him being a rookie, he'd have been Defensive Player of the Year. He'd have been Defensive Player of the Year. So the defense, not to mention that's with the Spurs, is pure fundamental basketball. It's two-way ball. There's not just a whole bunch of highlight reels going on. So I love it, man. Look, seeing the old powerhouses that although my Lakers are a rival of the Spurs, seeing the Spurs and the Lakers really make two big trades that are going to impact the future of those two organizations, and they were the stalemates of the NBA in the 2000s and the 2010s. That's beautiful, man. I love it, man. Wemby, like I said, Wemby and De'Aaron Fox has the potential to be like Tony Parker and Tim Duncan was. And with that depth that they have, that's gonna be a fun team to watch for many years to come. That's gonna be a very, very fun team to watch. I mean, because big ups to the Patriots, man. Big ups to the Spurs, because they are the New England Patriots of the NBA that just so happened to have gotten their new Tom Brady, because everybody thought it was over once Tim Duncan left. But they was able to get Wemby, much like the Patriots were able to get Drake May, who made the Pro Bowl this year. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. And it's going to be interesting to see if Pop can win another one before he finally decides to retire. So
I think this is the best situation for the Spurs. I love the moves. I think this is great because your defense, to add Fox with Wemby and CP3, all of them who know how to play defense, and Pop, we all know how exceptional he is as a coach with the ball movement. I think this is going to be big for San Antonio and for the years to come. So San Antonio, and it's great too, because I love it when Chuck talks about San Antonio, but that's a different story for another day. But overall, this is a good move. Really good move, though. I think San Antonio by far won this one. And of course, guys, Jimmy Butler traded to Golden State. And then on top of that, he signed the extension. 101, I think it was 2 years for what, over $100 million? 101, I think.
2 years, 121.
$121 million. I'm sorry. So that's like $60 million per year.
60.5 million a year.
Look, Jimmy got exactly what he wanted. He's out of Miami. He's done. He told you. He already showed his true colors. He let you know that Miami, I want out. I think Miami won this one with the trade, with all the picks. They get themselves Andrew Wiggins. So I think for Miami, they win. As for Golden State, okay, fine. Jimmy is there, but how is he going to fit in with the Golden State Warriors roster as presently constructed? I think for Miami, shout out to our guy Luis, diehard Miami Heat fan. I love it for South Beach. It was time to move on. This is a good move for Miami. It can help out with the younger players. It's no longer a constant headache. It's no longer a constant problem in the locker room. They can finally move on and they can go back to playing Miami Heat basketball. As for Jimmy Butler, wish him the best. And if it doesn't work out, to your point, champ, because we talked about this last week, are you the problem? Because again, Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Miami, and now this. So I think the Heat won this one because you got some players, younger players, and I think with this team, you have something to build and look forward to. As for Jimmy Butler and for the Warriors, not so much. What are your thoughts, champ?
You did. They did all of that just to end up in the play-in. You traded for Jimmy Butler. Just you gave up all that money just to end up in the play-in. If this would have been a trade like a couple years ago, like let's say right after the bubble, I would say would have been a hell of a trade. But this is one of those trades that is sadly anticlimactic. You have to, because there's too many question marks about it. How is him and Draymond Green two of the most alpha personalities that we've ever seen in the NBA? How are these guys going to get along?
Simple. They'll hug and kiss and sing Kumbaya.
I don't think so. But, I mean, because Draymond ran off KD. He ran off Jordan Poole. How is he going to deal with a personality like Jimmy? That is going to who is known to throw his weight around, known to call people out, known to be kind of a headache.
Not to mention he has a pod.
Yeah.
Hey, Draymond's not afraid to say whatever is on his mind. I'm just speaking truths.
Jimmy Butler ain't the one, though. Jimmy Butler is not the one.
Yeah, he is not that dude. So, I'm just,
what is this, reality TV we talking about here?
Like I said,
was this Love and Hip Hop?
This is one of those situations where it's gonna be interesting, man. It's kind of like put me by a buffet and expect me not to eat. Something gonna happen in that locker room, and then I don't know. Like I said, if this would have been like right after the bubble and they would have reconstructed this team along with Jimmy Butler, or if it would have been like 1 or 2 years after the bubble, I could understand this trade. But like I said, I believe the Golden State Warriors don't want to rebuild at this point. I just believe they do not want to rebuild. I believe they are to the point where they've gotten used to winning at a certain point, and they're just trying to hang on to whatever remnants they have left. I don't think it's going to work. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I hope that Steph Curry wins that 5th one. And if that happens, it's going to turn the NBA world upside down, because you're going to start hearing a whole lot of positive talks and negative talks, which we will get into a little bit later. But I don't like this one, like I said, because I wonder how volatile that old JB is going to be in that locker room. And like I said, then you have another alpha type personality with Draymond Green. I don't know how that's going to work. It's only so many big dogs, I will say, that can be on one team. It's like before you just start like looking like.
I think to your point, champ, the Warriors, they at this point they don't care. They're just like, let's just give it a try, see how it goes, and just go from there. We've already won championships. We know that Steph is going to be out of here for the next couple of years. So, hey, there's no guarantee for us to compete. Might as well just throw away what we got right now and move forward. But it's going to be intriguing to see, because how the two of them going to work. I thought that Jimmy would want to go to Phoenix. That's what I thought, but That didn't work out. But at least he's happy he's no longer with the Heat organization. BRF.
Man, you know what it remind me of? I saw a meme on it, and I thought it was a perfect analogy. But I'm gonna add to it. The Golden State Warriors, the way they were hopping from star to star to star to star. You want to know what it remind me of? You remind me of like a dude like he kind of either hanging with his boys or he out by himself and he driving, or where he decided to hit up one of the clubs one night. So he get up in the club and he started trying to holler at all the women in the club, and none of them would give him the number. Nobody would give him attention and none of that. I'm talking about just nothing. And then all of a sudden at the end of the night, like he was talking to some eights, he was talking to some nines, and none of them were like giving him the attention. And then homeboy finally fell on that five and just bam, that was it. He got to that five. he got to that five. He got to that six, and that was it.
He left the club with a booger.
Yeah, but that's kind of what it feel like. That kind of what it feel like. That kind of what it feel like. He ain't getting no dime pieces, so he ain't getting no time. He ain't getting no dime pieces, so he just went out and left with a piece. I mean, that's what it does.
He'll be all right.
No, I'm just saying that's what this felt like though. I have never seen a team more thirsty to add a star than what the Golden State Warriors were that entire trade deadline. It was Jimmy Butler. It was Kevin Durant. It was I think they who else? I mean they got it. Braun. They were trying to see if they could get Braun. I mean, it was crazy with Golden State, and then it's like they finally ended up with Jimmy Butler, and you're just looking at the trade, and you're just like, okay, so how did this move the needle? Because with Golden State, the way they play, you have to be able to shoot the three. Jimmy Butler's not the greatest 3-point shooter. I mean, he's still a good defender. He's not like this ain't peak prime defensive Jimmy Butler, but I mean he's still a good defender. But I mean, it's like how is this gonna mesh? I mean, the good thing about this for the Golden State Warriors is that they didn't have to give up Jonathan Kuminga, which is what a lot of people thought they were gonna have to do. They didn't have to give him up. So they lucked out on that because I think he's budding into a potential superstar in this league. So they're lucky they didn't have to give him up. But it's like how does this work now? So it's like, yeah, okay. Okay, so 7 seed, 8 seed, 9 seed. Yeah, I'm like champ. I feel like they're bound for the play-in. Possibly the 6, but that's it. I think they're in that 6 to 10 range because I mean nothing they didn't really get that much better, even with a Jimmy Butler. And as far as the Heat side of it, I definitely prefer it for the Heat because I mean they're building for the future. And on top of that, you do get Andrew Wiggins, who I think is a little bit more as far as like a controllable asset as far as his contract or whatnot. So I mean I feel like Andrew Wiggins going to Miami kind of gives them like a I think he's going to mesh well with what they do. I think he's going to mesh better with what they do at Miami as opposed to what Jimmy Butler is going to be able to try to mesh with in Golden State. Because, I mean, Miami to me right now just feels like a bunch of guys. They just go out there, they bring their lunch boxes, they bring their pails to work, and they get after it, and that's it. And I feel like Andrew Wiggins is going to fit in just fine with what they're trying to do at Miami. I mean, I think him, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo is going to make a pretty I think they're going to make a pretty decent trio down there. And shout out to Luis because I mentioned this in the chat because I know he was talking about because he had said something like, yes, we can finally properly tank. And I'm just like Miami's not top 5 good, but they're not lottery bad.
They're not tanking.
So they're like so it's like
Dolphins.
They're like the Miami Dolphins. They're not good enough to win a division or make a run at a conference championship, but they're not bad enough for the number 1 overall pick. So they're kind of like they're in limbo. So it's like, are you really gonna be bad enough to get one of those elite college players coming out? Because I think this draft is gonna be a lot better in terms of depth than what it was last year. So it's like, are you gonna be really that bad to get one of those players? I don't know if you're gonna be that bad. So so Miami just might be in that situation where they got guys there that just might get them get them back in the play-in too. And they might not want it. They might not want it. They might want to just miss out on everything altogether. But I think Miami still has enough talent there in their squad to squeeze out a play-in tournament appearance. I really do feel. I think so.
I agree with y'all. I think Miami won this one. Like I said, they got something to look forward to. They may not. I don't see them tanking, but I do think they'll be competitive. They'll make the playoffs, but that's about it. But at least you have something to look forward to. Some of the Heat players, particularly Kevin Love, a fan had to inform them of the trade, and that's how they found out about the trade. But look, man,
I saw that clip too.
yeah, it's been a crazy sports week. But we got something. But we got to move on to, of course, the big one, the Super Bowl, the picks. Now, Champ and I, we gave our picks. We have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are favorite to win that one. They're a 1-point favorite. BRF, obviously, you're going with the Chiefs because at the end of the day, as long as 15 is at quarterback, nothing else matters.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to become. He's becoming this generation's Brady, and people might not want to hear it, but he's becoming this generation's Brady. You can't give him too much time on the clock, whether it's the end of the first half or the end of the fourth quarter. You can't give him too much time on the clock. You can't leave him hanging around if you have a lead. I mean, it's just like no lead is safe when you have a Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid as your head coach and as your play caller. No lead is safe. And I see people talking like, well, in talking about, like how, like running backs have like done well against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And like, well, what is Saquon Barkley gonna do? Kansas City's got that extra week to prepare. So Kansas City's got a scheme up their sleeve to be able to, if not stop Saquon Barkley, because I don't think you can, slow him down enough to where you're making Jalen Hurts beat you from inside the pocket. Jalen Hurts is still a really good creator out the pocket. He's obviously one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. You have to somewhat keep him in the pocket. I still feel like the best way to beat the Philadelphia Eagles is keep him in the pocket. Just keep him playing as a traditional quarterback. When Jalen Hurts is making plays with his feet, he's getting out of the pocket. When you're having to focus an extra defender on him, but you're taking a defender away from his targets and he can hit somebody in stride open, you're opening up way more for the Philadelphia Eagles offense to take advantage of. And then when you open that up, you're taking a defender out of the box. Here comes 26 doing what he's been doing all year, and that's that's gashing everybody and running through and running around and backwards hurdling everybody. I mean, he's right now. You can make a case top 5 running back season ever. I think you can make it. I think you can make a case. I mean, like just coming
Even
into
better
it,
than
coming.
Terrell Davis.
If he can win the Super Bowl, I'll put him in that. I'll put him in that echelon.
I think, yeah.
Before.
I think honestly, I don't know. The situations are really similar though, because we know the offensive line that Terrell Davis had in Denver. They had to. I mean, you can't sit here and say there was an offensive line those back-to-back years, you can't say there was an offensive line better than the Denver Broncos had in 97, 98 when they went back-to-back. There wasn't a better offensive line. And I think you can kind of say that with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the only offensive line in the National Football League that compete with the Philadelphia Eagles on a down-to-down basis are the Detroit Lions. I think they're the only offensive line that can really go blow for blow with them. But I mean, Detroit's not here. They got put out in the divisional. So, I think what they do in the Super Bowl, as far as like from an historical standpoint with Saquon Barkley's season, was going to tell a lot as far as where we put it historically. Because I definitely think it's already a top 10 running back season of all time. And depending on what he does here, we could definitely start talking about top 5 seasons of all time. But just going back to the game and just analyzing it, I just look at it from a standpoint of, for Philly to win this game, they have to strike early, they have to strike often, and that defense has to keep doing what it's been doing as far as getting after the quarterback, speeding Patrick Mahomes' clock up, and ultimately getting takeaways. They have to be the enforcer here. They have to be the ones dictating the tempo of the game, because if you give the Kansas City Chiefs any leeway to snowball this game, no team can snowball a game, especially in the playoffs. No team can snowball a game better than the Kansas City Chiefs. If you give them just the slightest hair of a leeway, they will take that, and next thing you know, Patrick Mahomes is celebrating his 4th championship. Philadelphia has to be on the attack from first quarter to fourth quarter, and they can't let off, because it's like I said earlier, no lead is safe. You have to put them you have to have them in a situation where the foot is on the throat in the fourth quarter, and you have to bear down. You cannot let up on the Kansas City Chiefs. Philadelphia has to win this game by taking advantage of it early and controlling the pace and knowing who you're dealing with, but knowing that this is probably one of the more vulnerable Kansas City Chiefs teams that there have been. Even though they are turning it up in the playoffs, they can be had. Philadelphia does that from first quarter on. They have to attack. Kansas City, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do what's brought you here. Do what's brought you 3 championships in the last 4 years, which is Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, offensively from a schematic standpoint, being better than just about everybody in the league. Having Isaiah Pacheco back helps. Having Kareem Hunt as depth definitely helps, as far as with the play action and for Mahomes being able to get it to Kelsey and Worthy and all those guys. So this is going to be a chess match. I'm excited because the line hasn't really moved that much for a reason. This is going to be a close game. I feel like it's going to be a chess match. It's just going to be a matter of we always say, the old cliche lines like who makes more plays and all that stuff. I think this game is going to come down to coaching. You got Nick Sirianni for Philly. You got Andy Reid for Kansas City. Who's going to show up when it matters? Yeah, who's going to show up the most when it matters, when it's time to make that crucial play call to either get you a big score, to get you a first down, to potentially put it in a situation where you can kill some clock? Is what it's going to come down to. Yeah, you're usually going to pick Andy Reid in those situations like that, but you got to admit, Nick Sirianni, he's looked pretty good in these playoffs so far. Granted, he's really only played one close game in the playoffs. His team stepping up. I feel like his play calling has stepped up. His situational awareness has stepped up in these playoffs. I mean, it's just he's got to keep it. He's got to keep it up. But going against the Kansas City Chiefs will make you do things you don't normally do. So he's got to be able to maintain that focus going against Kansas City, because this the big dog. This is the king. And when you're going up against the king and you're having to make certain play calls, certain situations, you sometimes, if the game's close, you tend to kind of tense up. You tend to freak out. So can he keep his focus and maintain his composure to be able to lead his team to possibly their second? To what this will be the Philadelphia Eagles second championship in the last the second title in 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, I'm kind of anxious to see. I'm
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
to
yeah.
see where it goes.
Yep, 8 years. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. Although I can't stand the Eagles because of some of them crazy Eagles fans in Philadelphia. Y'all get on my nerves, but that's a story for another day. Look, Nick Sirianni, learn from the predecessor, Kyle Shanahan. Do not, under no circumstances, do not take the ball out of 26's hands. Do not take the ball out of 26's hands. Jalen Hurts doesn't need to play as well like he did in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. He just needs to play good enough. Just good enough. Situational football, go through the progressions, go through the reads. The only way they can contain Saquon, and I agree with Last Word. Shout out to Last Word. I was checking out his pod. He said something. They're going to have to stack the box and basically dare Jalen Hurts to throw the football. I don't see Jalen Hurts throwing the football as much. I do see Saquon running it more as long as they manage time of possession, as long as they keep 15 on the sidelines, not on the football field. And more importantly, they not only have to take care of the football, penalties. Do not be surprised at all. It's going to come down to a controversial penalty. Do not be surprised with that. Nick Sirianni, here's all of I am concerned about the report about the Eagles with the flu with Jalen Carter. I still believe the Eagles will be at their best. The X factor to me is Brandon Graham because he's coming back. Just like you mentioned with Pacheco coming back, so is Brandon Graham. Now, I am concerned with Russ, but I do believe he will step in. I think the Eagles win this one 30-24. 30-24. I think with Carter and Davis getting after Mahomes, I think it does help. Now, the Chiefs running defense, I do not see the Chiefs running defense being as awful as Washington's rushing defense. That was the primary reason why I picked the Eagles over the Commanders, because the Commanders, they were 30th in the NFL in stopping the run. Okay? So against that offense with that O-line and Saquon running the football, nah. Now, if you look at Pro Football Reference, I'm just looking up it right now as far as rushing defense is concerned. I don't know they are rushing defense. Let me see. Philly is no. I know Philly is number 1 in passing defense, the number 2 in scoring defense. If I can just find the rushing defense. Yes. If you look at Philly, their rushing defense, they're 10th in the NFL. If you look at Kansas City, they are 8th. So Kansas City could actually do something as far as not stopping Saquon, but at least to some extent containing. I think it comes down to situational football. I think the pressure is going to be on Kansas City to three-peat, something that's never been done in NFL history. Okay, even though Philly has the more complete team, I think they have the better roster. But I think the pressure is going to be on Kansas City to win because of the three-peat. But if they do three-peat, we really going to have to revisit the conversation, is Patrick Mahomes the GOAT? If that happens. I believe the Eagles win this one 30-24. I actually see Saquon winning Super Bowl MVP. 22 carries for at least 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the air, 1 on the ground. And other than him, either Jalen Hurts or Jalen Carter. Champ.
Me. Hey, Philadelphia, the Georgia Eagles, Philadelphia Bulldogs. Bring it on home, man. I'm rooting for you. Hey, look out for Jordan Davis, that defensive line, especially with Brandon Graham back now. It's going to be as dangerous as ever. I think this is the best team that the Kansas City Chiefs has faced thus far. They have everything in order to win. They have the running backs. They have the quarterback play. They have the line. They have the defensive line. They have the back end. They have the front. They have the front seven. They have everything complete in order to win this. It's all going to come down to one thing, though. Can the Philadelphia Eagles coach out-coach the great Andy Reid? That's what it's going to come down to. But overall, I think that this year is the year of the Eagles. So fly, Eagles, fly, and bring that Lombardi trophy to the NFC, back to the NFC in Georgia. My Georgia Bulldogs that play for the Philadelphia Eagles, good luck. I believe you're going to bring it home and make that trip down here to Athens as well, so you could go ahead and pay tribute to Kirby Smart with that Lombardi too while you at it.
I think this is going to be a great one. But, guys, I will say this, and this is a caveat. I don't like getting into conspiracy theories and all that other stuff. Don't be surprised that there's going to be some controversial calls by the refs.
That's every Super Bowl, though, man. I mean,
I know, Champ. I know it's every Super Bowl, but when you look at the Chiefs and Roger Goodell, he did the press conference. He denied the controversial calls. Don't be surprised, because if you look at the AFC Championship game, I kind of saw some controversial calls. That QB sneak with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought he got in.
I mean, I thought he got in too, but the thing is this. All of y'all have been athletes. PSP, you've been an athlete. BRF, I'm pretty sure you have been an athlete, and I myself have been an athlete. And I'm going to tell you, rest in peace to one of the greatest of all time. Marvin Hagler always said this, because I never forget, he got cheated out of a world title when he was
Sugar Ray Leonard.
No, not that one. But when he was going for his first world title, that one too. But when he was going for his first world title, he was the clear winner of the match, and they didn't give it to him. And you know what he said? You know what he said at that press conference? From now on, these are going to be my judges. And the thing is, Philadelphia, you got to bring it out, and you got to let these, or in your case, that football, be your judge. You got to come out here. You got to put it on them like you never put it on the team before. You got to run Saquon, and you got to do everything that you can to keep these guys at bay. Don't go away from what you did, but at the same time, don't stick to too much that you have done. You have to come out here and get it done, and you have to let that football be your judge. And with a lot of plays, it don't just come down to that one play. It's a multitude of mistakes that lead up to that play. So Philadelphia, in the great words of Marvin Hagler, the late great Marvin Hagler, one of the best middleweight champions of all time, you have to let your play and your football be your judge. In other words, you have to score every time you get that ball, and you got to hold them every time they're on the field. Now, I know that's not possible, but you're going to have to do your damnedest to play that. You're going to have to play mistake-free football. One slip up, you a little slow, you a little late, and you know it's over. So let the football be your judge, and do not leave it in the officials' hands.
Well said, champ. And for those who may be wondering, I will be doing a sports PSP pod right after the Super Bowl. Champ and BRF, you're more than welcome to come in, give your analysis of the game, and we will talk about a lot of stuff regarding the Super Bowl. But let's continue on with the Super Bowl. If the Chiefs three-peat, because champ, we've had this conversation last year. If the Chiefs three-peat, does this now make Patrick Mahomes the GOAT?
No. I believe that puts him ahead of my GOAT. I always say my GOAT is Joe Montana. My GOAT is Joe Montana. I think that clearly puts him ahead of, Joe Montana if he was able to three-peat. And the reason why I have Joe Montana as my GOAT is because, like I said, I grew up watching him. I even bought his video game, Joe Montana Sports Top Football, all of that. But the reason why Joe's my GOAT is because of the defenses that he faced back then. He faced the New York Giants defense with Lawrence Taylor. He faced Reggie White in the Philadelphia Eagles. He faced those Chicago Bears great defenses. He faced the Washington Commanders defense that they had back during the 80s. Some of the greatest defenses of all time were all in the 80s, and Joe Montana faced all of them and beat every last one of them. That is why he's my GOAT. But if Patrick Mahomes is to win a three-peat, yes, that puts him past Joe Montana as the second greatest of all time. But people, let's stop moving the goalposts. We know Brady as the greatest of all time because he has 7 rings. It's just that simple. Something that not just any quarterback, no other player in NFL history has 7 rings. And for people who keep saying, well, he's the Bill Russell of this league. No, he won in modern day times. He beat some of the greatest teams of all time. You can't write the history of the NFL without the greatest show on turf. You can't write the history of the NFL without Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. You can't write the history of the NFL without the Legion of Boom. You can't write the history of the NFL without 28-3. So everything that Brady was a part of, you can't write the history of the NFL without it. He beat some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time that are in the Hall of Fame. He beat those guys. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like with Tom Brady, he was Otto Graham, who went to 10 straight NFL championships and won 7 of them back in the Mesozoic age of the NFL. That's not the case. He won in modern day versions of the NFL. In the modern day NFL, his dynasty spanned for 2 decades. 2 decades. And he won 6 Super Bowls he won 7 Super Bowls with almost 11 AFC championship appearances. So guess what? That is the undisputed GOAT. No player in the world has done what Brady has done. Name them. If you name them, Brady has beaten them. Peyton Manning beat him. Matt Ryan beat him. Ben Roethlisberger beat him. Kurt Warner beat him. You name them, Patrick Mahomes beat him. Some of the greatest of all time, he's beaten them. Every single last one of them. And if you really look at yesteryear's quarterbacks, when you think about Phillip Rivers, when you think about Ben Roethlisberger, when you think about all of those quarterbacks that are going to the Hall of Fame, Brady beat all those guys. He beat the last generation of quarterbacks, and he beat this ones. So the thing is, for people who be talking about, well, Tom Brady's the Bill Russell of this league. No, he won in modern day times and beat some of the greatest teams of all times. Who expected him to beat the greatest show on turf? Nobody. Who expected him to beat the Carolina Panthers when they had that great defensive line with Mike
Julius
Rucker,
Peppers, Chris Jenkins?
Yes, who expected him to beat? Nobody. Even when they had the star-studded Philadelphia Eagles with Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches of all time, they still couldn't hold a candle to Brady.
I think the Patriots, they expected the Patriots to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah, but the thing was, the biggest story out of that Super Bowl was T.O. as well. But they had a chance in order to win. They
did. T.O. did play on one leg in that Super Bowl and balled out.
Then they couldn't stop him neither.
9 for a buck 22.
Exactly. So who expected them to win that? They, like I said, they've beaten some of the greatest teams of all. Brady, during his era, beat some of the greatest teams and greatest offenses of all time. Stop many of players from getting Super Bowl rings. Stop dynasties from happening. St. Louis was supposed to be a dynasty. Brady stopped that. The Legion of Boom was supposed to make history and go back to back. Brady stopped that. So for people who keep saying, well, he's the Bill Russell of the league, no, stop moving the goalposts. Tom Brady won. It was just recently. He's only been out of the league only 2 years. I think 2 years.
2 years, yes.
2
He
years.
retired after the 2022 season.
Exactly. He's only been out of the league 2 years. And guess what? Everybody's trying to put him in the league with Bill Russell. Stop. Tom Brady was the dynasty. He was the Patriot way. He won not only with his superstar coach, he did something that Joe Montana did. He won one with a different coach. Remember, Joe Montana not only won with one of the greatest coaches of all time in Bill Walsh, he won one with George Seifert.
Yes, he did.
So stop moving the goalposts because we want to erase the history of the NFL. Or in other words, how they used to say it on TikTok, we're done with the 90s. We're done with the 2000s. No, Brady ruled 2 decades. Brady was the damn Undertaker of the NFL. Facing Brady in the Super Bowl, leading up to other than Eli Manning, was like facing the Undertaker at WrestleMania. You knew you was going down. It was only a matter of time before he put the tombstone on you.
And Nick Foles.
Yeah. But the thing is this. Brady is the undisputed GOAT. Most Super Bowl rings, most passing yards, most passing touchdowns. Undisputed GOAT. And the GOAT for a quarterback and the goal for a quarterback. For people who keep saying it doesn't matter how many rings you got, tell that to Lamar Jackson. Tell that to Josh Allen. Tell that to Joe Burrow. Tell that to Dan Marino. Tell that to Jim Kelly. What do they all have in common? Oh, they don't have any. They don't have none. So if you're going to sit here and try to say it doesn't matter if you get as many rings, tell those quarterbacks who don't have one, it doesn't matter how many rings that they have. Brady is the undisputed GOAT. He has 7 Super Bowls. And guess what? He didn't win in the prehistoric age of the NFL. He won in modern day time, beating some of the greatest players and the greatest coaches of all time. Beat Mike Tomlin, beat Jim Harbaugh, beat all of these great coaches, all of these great quarterbacks. Brady has beaten them all. Like I said, he's essentially the Undertaker of the NFL. Stop trying to erase history and move the goalposts just because we're trying to move it into modern day times. Tom Brady was the Michael Jordan of his time. It's just fortunate for Patrick Mahomes. He's the new Michael Jordan. But the thing is, the fact of the matter is, until you get 7 of these, you're not the GOAT. We didn't start putting Brady into GOAT conversations until after he surpassed Joe Montana in Super Bowl rings. Until he matched or exceeded Joe Montana in Super Bowl rings, we wasn't talking about him as the GOAT, the undisputed greatest of all time, until after he won that 4th one. Then he went into the stratosphere of being the undisputed GOAT. Rings matter in the NFL, especially now. This is not the prehistoric age of Otto Graham and a lot of those other players. He won in modern day times. He beat the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He beat the greatest coaches of all time. So until you get at least 6, I don't want to hear about nobody else holding a candle to Tom Brady. GOAT of the NFL.
BRF?
think they're the greatest dynasty in the history of the league if they win this championship, because they'll be the first to three-peat. So I do think they'll be the greatest as far as like from a standpoint of like a singular time frame of dominance. I think they could possibly go down as the greatest dynasty of all time because they'll be the first to three-peat. As far as Patrick Mahomes being the GOAT, not
necessarily.
I really don't see the conversation really until he gets to 5, because then it's like, okay, you have these rings now. Your stats, your accolades, are you setting records and all of that? Like, because like with Brady, dude essentially had 2 Hall of Fame careers. If you go from his like 01, like his first run in New England, threw for like almost 40,000 yards. Those were the first 3 championships. The division title. I'm trying to remember. Like the first half of his career, he threw for almost 40,000 yards. He won 3 championships. He won 2 league MVP. He won the 3 championships. I think his first 2 MVPs during that first half of his career. All the division titles and all of that, the Pro Bowls and everything. And then the second half of his career, he almost throws for another 40,000 career yards, 4 championships, another league MVP, the division titles, and all that. I posted a picture a while back on the chat, and I don't have it on me, but the dude essentially had 2 Hall of Fame careers, which is why Patrick Mahomes, even if he wins the championship, he's not there yet, because Tom Brady had an individual's like if you were to look at an individual's career and they had like a really, really good Hall of Fame career, he did it twice. And then and like I said, it's not, and the thing is, it's like we talk about Brady with the 7 championships, and I get that. I think dude's also a 2-time, 3-time league MVP?
3-time.
He's a 3-time league MVP. 3-time league MVP. He's been an offensive player of the year. He's won a comeback player of the year award. I mean, he has accomplishments on top of accomplishments on top of accomplishments. Let's go back to that comeback player of the year in 2009, where he won the comeback player of the year. The year before, he tore his ACL. Matt Castle goes 11-5 with that team, and they missed the playoffs. And the only reason why they missed the playoffs because the AFC was just so godly stacked at the time with really, really good rosters and really, really good teams. And then Tom Brady just comes back and it's just like, took a year off. I'm back doing what Tom Brady does. Wins comeback player of the year, because I mean, it's Tom freaking Brady. Patrick Mahomes, if he wins the championship, is not the GOAT yet. But I do think he catapults himself, for me, in top 5 of all time talks. I think he catapults himself, because you're looking at 4 championships, you're looking at 2 league MVPs, you're looking at possibly 4 Super Bowl MVPs. I mean, there's no argument you can make if he wins this championship that he's not a top 5 quarterback of all time. There's no argument that you can make that he's not if he wins it. So I think he solidifies. Some people already have him in the top 5.
I have him top 3 actually.
For me, I can see it.
BRF, I'm sorry, I got him over Peyton, and I love Peyton. And
I know. I don't yet.
Not even over Peyton?
No, No, I don't have him over Peyton yet. Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning is still the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. Dude has 5 league MVPs with the 2 championships, with all the records, and not yet.
You my dog, man. I gotta disagree with you on that one, man.
No, see, because here's the thing, y'all are only looking at his postseason stuff. You have to look at everything with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has done more in the regular season than any other quarterback in the history of this league. I ain't got him there yet.
I understand that, but look, I'm gonna just be real. This is just me. if you take Peyton Manning right now and put him on that Patrick Mahomes team right now, and you switch them and put Patrick Mahomes on that Peyton Manning team, let's say at its peak in 2005, I think that team goes all the way.
Really?
Yes. Look at how many Hall of Famers he had on that team.
Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin
Yes.
James.
That's the reason why I hold it again. I'm sorry, PSP. My bad.
No, it's fine. It's good.
That is why I hold it against. This is what I hold against Peyton Manning. And this is why I call Brady the greatest of all time. You had more Hall of Famers than any one person on your prospective team. You have more Hall of Famers at your disposal than any other player in your era. You have more Hall of Famers than Phillip Rivers. You have more Hall of Famers than the GOAT himself. You have more Hall of Famers than any other person. You have more Hall of Famers than Ben Roethlisberger. You have more Hall of Famers at the skill position players. And that's just the Hall of Famers that you have. That's just the Hall of Famers. We're not going to even talk about Brandon Stokely. We're not going to even talk about Marcus Pollard. We're not going to even talk about Dallas Clark. We're not going to even talk about those guys and Dominique Rhodes. Pro Bowlers. Matter of fact, Edgerrin James get hurt. I think in 2000 and 2001, tears his ACL. Dominique Rhodes comes in, rushes for almost 1,200 yards. You have a Pro Bowler. And then until Edgerrin James got back up to full speed, they were splitting time. So you have more Hall of Famers, more Pro Bowlers at your disposal than any other player in history in the 2000s. And yet you only have one Super Bowl to show for it. Not to mention, before people say, well, he never had a defense. Look at the people he had on that defense. Robert Mathis.
Dwight Freeney.
Marcus Washington. Cato June. Then you had, what's the guy's name? Sanders.
Bob Sanders.
Bob Sanders, Hall of Famer.
Yes.
So that's what I hold against Peyton. The thing is, if you switch, look, and I'm gonna steal Trent's brother's Trey thunder on this one because he taught me this. I got to give the flowers where they need it. Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback throughout his career that they've taken away things and he still succeeded. Those teams that Peyton Manning had in his especially early in his career, they kept those teams together for years. And even after they got rid of Edgerrin James, they drafted Joseph Adai, who was a Pro Bowler.
Yes, they did.
So guess what? I put Patrick Mahomes over him simply because I think if they would have switched places, if you would have put Patrick Mahomes in the Indianapolis Colts, I think he would have did a hell of a lot more than that team than Peyton did. I think he would have, like I said, he had all of Famous galore.
I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. Don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. Y'all are just seriously overlooking the amount of Hall of Famers that the New England Patriots had on those defenses. We ain't gonna sit here that like Rodney Harrison wasn't on them defenses. We ain't gonna that like Teddy Bruschi wasn't on them defenses. Richard Seymour was on that defense. Vince Wilfork was on that defense. And in the early stages, you had Ty Law and Lawyer Malloy on those defenses. And just no.
Let's not forget Russell Soul Jr. Seau.
And Junior Seau was on those defenses too. So you got to think with the amount of names and the amount of brains Bill Belichick has had on those defenses, he would have schemed Patrick Mahomes the exact same way he schemed Peyton Manning at those times, and I think he would have got him too. I don't think against that New England defense, I don't think it mattered. I don't think it would have mattered. They were too good for anybody to go up against them at the time. Wouldn't have mattered.
Look,
that's just how I feel.
Hey, Hey, Peyton was putting up video game numbers with Marvin Harrison and company. I think Patrick Mahomes had to have to put. He's shown us that he's able to do that not only with a star receiver, but with not so great receiving core. So I think that he would have did just as good, if not better, than Peyton during that era. And like I said, when I talk about Peyton Manning, I talk about the skill position. When you think about the skill position that Tom Brady had, other than clock killing Dylan, those first couple Super Bowls, other than clock killing Corey Dillon, those first couple Super Bowls, he had him. And the thing is, he had him for one, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Other than that, what Hall of Famer did he have on the offensive side of the ball during his first couple years? I'll wait.
Nobody.
When he finally got what was so funny about that, when Brady finally got a wide receiver in Randy Moss and Wes Welker, he tore the record books and went to the Super Bowl.
And unfortunately, they lost.
But you was able to see what he would have done if they had kept that team together. Then they finally got him Gronk. That's why I call him the GOAT. As they was able to get him certain skill position players, guess what? He was able to elevate even higher. Peyton had 2 loaded squads. Those Indianapolis teams were loaded Hall of Fame talent. Ironically, he went from there to the Broncos and had just as many weapons as he did in Indianapolis. Then they gave him the no-fly zone defense. So you had that high-powered offense for several years in Indianapolis and that defense with a lot of Hall of Fame and Pro Bowl players on there. Then you go from there to Denver. You get the no-fly zone defense and you get the best offense in the NFL for years to come, and you only come out with 1 Super Bowl. And the 1 Super Bowl that you made, you only score 8 points. Wow. After your offense scores almost 60 touchdowns, and you're responsible for almost 55 of them. So guess what? Like I said, in the playoffs, it matters when it comes to quarterbacks, especially when you got a squad like that. You have the no-fly zone defense plus the greatest offense in the NFL. You can't win. You only come out with 1 Super Bowl? You only come out with 1 Super Bowl. You have a Hall of Famer, Tony Dungy, back up there in Indianapolis. And the thing is, I give him a mulligan his first couple of years because he had Jim Moore as his coach. He was more hard-nosed, and, that was not Peyton's style. So I give him a mulligan his first couple of years. Plus, Marshall Faulk won on that team very long. But after Tony Dungy gets there, you're in contention every single year. You have Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer because Bill Polian was loading that team to the max in order for you to beat the New England Patriots, in order for you to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And ironically, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger won the Super Bowl before you did in his second year. So I can't give Peyton that elevation over Patrick Mahomes. Granted, he changed the game. I give it to him. He changed the game because I remember that 3,000 yards was the standard for every year. If you had a 3,000-yard season, guess what? You had a pretty decent year. 3,500, you was doing amazing. Peyton made it a requirement for you to have 4,000 a season. You don't get 4,000 yards a season, you're not doing good as a quarterback now. So I would give him that. But as far as putting him over Patrick Mahomes, no. Because like I said,
we gotta agree to disagree on that one. Gotta agree to disagree on that one.
You my dog still, but like I said, when you got the no-fly zone and the best offense look, imagine having the Tampa Bay Bucks, the 2003 Tampa Bay Bucks, and the greatest show on turf on the same team. That's what he had in Denver for years. And he came out with one Super Bowl, only scored 8 points in one of them. I can't give him a pass on that. Patrick Mahomes had a number one defense and a top 10 offense. He's been in no less than the AFC Championship every single year and in the Super Bowl. So I cannot give Peyton that over there. Like I said, if you were to put Mahomes with all of those Hall of Famers, with Edgerrin James for years to come, with Dominique Rhodes, with Marcus Pollard, with those, and they kept that team together for years. If you put Patrick Mahomes on that Indianapolis team in the early 2000s, he'd have not only lit up the record books, but they'd have won at least two of them. Not to mention, like I said, you go from one situation, you get even better because now you got one of the greatest defenses of all time when you talk about the no-fly zone defense. You had DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, two of the greatest pass rushers arguably ever in the NFL. You virtually had Lawrence Taylor, the modern-day Lawrence Taylor and Derek Thomas, the bookends on there. You come out with one Super Bowl, both of those teams was loaded. No, Patrick Mahomes over Peyton, baby.
All right.
I agree to disagree, but that's another conversation.
All right, let me get in.
Brother.
All right, let me get in on this one. Okay, first of all, he doesn't have to capture 7 in order to surpass Brady. By that logic, then LeBron James hasn't surpassed Michael Jordan. Last time I checked, LeBron James is 4-6. Jordan is 6-0, unblemished. Matter of fact, he never let a Game 7 come to his watch in an NBA Finals. But LeBron, a lot of them consider Bron the GOAT because of what he's done. People will make the argument he's done more with less. The consecutive amount of appearances he's made to the NBA Finals and so much more. But here's the thing with Mahomes. I wouldn't be mad nor shocked if this three-peat, this solidifies him as the GOAT. I still think he has a lot to prove because I would like to see him win without Andy Reid and go to a different team. But if you look at his accomplishments compared to Brady in his early years, champ, it's not even close. Mahomes has that. Yes, I understand Brady with the accomplishments and stuff like that, but Mahomes was considered the best quarterback in football, has won Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVPs, league MVPs. He doesn't have to necessarily capture 7 in order to be Brady. If he can get at least 5 or 6, I think that's enough of the conversation. And if he can continue this level of play for the next 10, 12 years, and you talk about dynasties that Brady has prevented, champ, is it fair to say Mahomes has? Look at the San Francisco 49ers. They should have won a couple of Super Bowls. And Mahomes prevented that. Now, we could look at it and we could say Kyle Shanahan kept his foot off the gas by not running the football enough, but still, that's what happens when you that's what happens when you give a guy like a Mahomes extra time. Same thing that could be said about the Super Bowl, unfortunately, to UNBRF, the Super Bowl in Atlanta, 28-3. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan, same mistake again. You had a 25-point lead. You were putting up points, but you did have Devontae Freeman there, made the Pro Bowl in 2016, had over 4 yards a carry. Had you run the football a little bit more, you would have milked the clock. You would have scored more points, and you would have kept Brady on that sideline. It would have been a masterful performance by Atlanta. It would have been probably somewhere in the high 40s to New England's 17-20. That's what have been the narrative. But if you look at it, champ, Mahomes has prevented dynasties. San Francisco, he's prevented Josh Allen from winning a Super Bowl. He's prevented Lamar Jackson from winning a Super Bowl. He's even prevented Joe Burrow from winning a Super Bowl. Burrow did beat Mahomes to get to a Super Bowl. Still hasn't won one. Second of all, just because he loses another Super Bowl, that doesn't disqualify Mahomes from being in the GOAT conversation. Because by that logic, then Joe Montana is still the GOAT. Because last time I checked, Joe Montana is still unblemished. He stole 4-0 with 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Brady is 5-3. He lost to Eli twice and to Nick Foles, a backup who got so bad for him, champ, he even contemplated retirement. But we don't hold that against Tom Brady. I think for Mahomes, he just needs to continue this level of play. Does he have a lot to prove? Yes. I would like to see him win somewhere else in different circumstances with a better head coach, because it's going to be between Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes. Who deserves more of the credit? Kind of like with New England, who deserves more of the credit between Brady and Belichick? Brady has proven he's deserved more of the credit. Don't want to take away or diminish Bill Belichick, but you saw how you were when you moved on from Tom Brady. Tom Brady was able to go to Tampa Bay, make multiple playoff appearances. And his first year, he did get them to win the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes, still at 29 years old, and that's the beauty of it, because he still has more than a decade left of football left in him. They still are going to be the team to come out of the AFC West, let alone the AFC. It's still going to be Kansas City's to lose. And I think with Mahomes, man, 7 consecutive AFC Championship appearances. Have we ever seen that in NFL history? 7? And the fact that you're winning and playing like this, and the fact that you're producing, and the fact that you showed up in big moments, in big times. He's already in the Super Bowl categories with Super Bowl MVP categories with Brady and Montana. I think if he wins and if he prevents the Eagles from a dynasty, that could add even more weight, champ. Because just like I said, he prevented the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers should be 2-time Super Bowl champions. The Eagles should have won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Because correct me if I'm wrong, champ, they were the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And we've seen Patrick Mahomes in worse circumstances. We saw him move on from Tyreek Hill. We've seen him play with Juju Smith-Schuster. We've seen him play with less tier wide receivers. Yes, he still has Andy Reid calling plays, but at the end of the day, Mahomes was still able to get the job done, not just with his arm, but also with his legs. We've seen Andy Reid, and great as a head coach as Andy Reid is, what was the knock on Andy Reid? Clock management situations. We've seen you work with great quarterbacks. Donovan McNabb. Keep in mind, when he was drafted, Donovan McNabb, he was booed. 5 NFC Championship appearances, a Super Bowl appearance. We've seen him work with Michael Vick. We've seen him work with Alex Smith. We've seen him work with all these other quarterbacks, and they couldn't deliver the goods. Yes, Andy Reid did draft Patrick Mahomes. They moved up in the draft to take him with the 10th overall pick. And look what has culminated. I don't think it's over yet for Patrick Mahomes as far as the GOAT, whether win or lose. I'm not going to go as far as saying he's the GOAT, but I won't be mad, though, because I don't think we'll ever see this type of production ever. And look, if the Eagles lose, then just like with all them teams when they lost to Tom Brady, it's Patrick Mahomes and everybody else. There's no shame losing to a quarterback like that. And he has prevented dynasties. Ravens should have won a Super Bowl or 2. 49ers, I just mentioned, they should have won a Super Bowl or 2. And I definitely agree with you, champ. Yes, I believe Patrick Mahomes at this point is a better quarterback than Peyton Manning, because I get the best of both worlds. I get the production from him in the regular season, and he's even produced still under worse circumstances. And I get nothing but greatness from him come postseason. Do I think this victory makes him the GOAT? I still need to see more. But I would totally not be surprised. Because, look, with Super Bowls, as I mentioned, he doesn't need 7, champ. He doesn't need 7. If he can get 5 or 6, I think that's enough. Because your guy, LeBron James, if he wins another Super Bowl, and you even asked this question yourself, if he wins a Super Bowl, if he wins a championship with Luka, how much of the GOAT conversations you're going to hear? Or you're going to get plenty. So I think with Mahomes, there's still a chance. That's all I'm saying.
All right, that's fair. That's very fair.
I still have Brady as the GOAT. Don't get it twisted. I have Mahomes 3. But if he wins this one, sorry, Joe, I got to put you 3.
Yeah, I put Joe 3. Now, the only question about that is like, you know, when you think about the top 3, you're going to be thinking about, you know, Brady, Mahomes, and Montana. The only question is right now, after that, you know, if he wins, if he three-peats, who do you put after that? You know, that's a better question for another. That's a better question. Does, you know, because that changes the top 5 conversation. Excuse me. They changed the top 5 conversation quarterbacks of all time now.
My top 5 are Brady, Montana, Mahomes, Peyton, and I got Rodgers.
Oh, man, that's good. Brady, Montana, they can switch, you know, before either after. They can't go wrong. Brady, Montana, Mahomes. I'll go Peyton at the 4. And for the 5th, I'm gonna go Rodgers too. I was gonna pull a hot take, you know, but
Great
there's
minds think alike.
I was gonna pull a hot take, but I'm not gonna start.
I thought you were gonna put Dan Marino in that top. I don't have a problem if you put Marino in that top 5 because as far as throwing the football is concerned,
Yeah, and
although he has those Super Bowls, but Dan amongst them, Dan is the best one as far as slinging it.
Yeah, look, the prettiest ball that you ever want to see is between Rodgers, Marino, and Warren Moon. Those are the prettiest. Those 3 threw the prettiest ball. But I have to put, you know, I put Rodgers on there because, you know, he won more MVPs and won more, and you know he does have that Super Bowl. But Dan Marino definitely right after Rodgers, I would say. You know, I think, you know, I hate that this list puts my guy Elway a little bit further on down the list as years go along. But yeah,
I think he's the most. I think amongst them, he's the most disrespected because look, I love Trent though, but a lot of them they just don't like. I don't know what is it about Elway. I mean, people forgotten he did go to 3 Super Bowls. I know he lost every one of them, but he did go to 3 before he won those 2. Was it really his fault that they lost all those Super Bowls?
well, the thing is this. Think about who he faced in those Super Bowls. You faced the greatest linebacker of all time in Lawrence Taylor in that great defense with Bill Parcells in the first. Then you turn back around the very next year. Doug Williams, the man of destiny, Joe Gibbs. And Joe Gibbs, one of the greatest coaches of all time. 2 years later, you get back to the Super Bowl, you got to face Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. You know, so was that really his fault? And I know people love looking at the stats or what have you, but the thing is, Dan Reeves was a very, very conservative coach. And you know this for a fact, BRL.
He loves to run that football.
He
That I
loves to
know.
run the football. And he wasn't into using Elway in certain ways, you know, that Dan Marino, Warren Moon, and those guys were used. So I will have to say, you know, Elway is the most disrespected of all time. Not to mention, at one point, he had the most fourth quarter comebacks in the NFL. You know, I never forget the great Neil Smith said, you know, out of every year that I played in Kansas City, because he played for the Kansas City Chiefs for almost 10, 11 years. He said, every year that I played, I only won one game in Mile High against John Elway, and that's how good he was. The Kansas City Chiefs couldn't even beat him, and they had a great team back there in Marty Schottenheimer, but they couldn't even beat him on a regular basis. But I think Elway is disrespected because when you think about all the gaudy stats a lot of guys put up, even back then, he doesn't have those. But, you know, you got to really, he's one of those quarterbacks now more than ever. You got to look at the tape.
If you put him in today's game, imagine what he could be. I think he would be Josh Allen of today's game.
I mean, him and Josh Allen are the only two guys in the history of the NFL to make second team All Pro and win the MVP.
We're about to get that, and we're gonna get that in a second. We're gonna get that in a second.
Those are the only two guys to ever get second team All Pro and win the MVP. So I mean, you can't discount what Elway not only, and like I said, everybody was trying to get Elway in the 1983 draft. They was trying to get him for a reason. Ernie Accorsi, the Baltimore Colts, the Raiders, everybody was trying to get him for a reason. Yeah, everybody was trying to get him for a reason. And if you look at that class, it's the greatest crop of quarterbacks that you ever want to look at. So out of all of those, he had the most, postseason and regular season. He had the most success.
All right, fellas. Let's go on and talk about last night at the NFL Honors. No surprise, Jaden Daniels won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Patrick Tame won Defensive Player of the Year. Verse from the Rams won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Ben Johnson won Assistant Coach of the Year. Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year. But ironically, Josh Allen won League MVP. And Champ and BRF, we ran the bandwagon MV3 for Lamar. I mean, and if you look at the numbers with Lamar Jackson this season, 4,000 yards, 40 plus touchdowns, single digit interceptions. You look at the passing, you look at the completion percentage, the QBR, the passer rating, very Aaron Rodgers-esque numbers. Made first team All Pro and didn't even win the MVP. Now, look, I'm not mad because I made the case for Josh Allen because look at the signature wins he had against Kansas City, given the Chiefs their first loss of the season, and given the Detroit Lions their first loss of the season since week 2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Josh Allen in that game against Detroit, even though losing to the Los Angeles Rams, having another crazy statistical performance. I think the reason why, Champ, correct me if I'm wrong, I think voters fatigue. Because I'm shocked that Josh Allen, and I'm not saying that Josh Allen doesn't deserve it. He deserves it for all the reasons that I mentioned. And of course, on top of the fact he did it with less talent. And the fact the knock on Josh Allen the past couple of years has been turnovers. Can't say that this year. He did a much better job taking care of the football. Last year, he was second in the NFL in turnovers over behind my guy, Sam Howell, when he used to play for Washington. But Lamar Jackson didn't win the league MVP. Could it be because of voters fatigue? Could it be because, wait a minute, okay, we voted for Lamar last year when he won the league MVP. He didn't put up spectacular numbers. I mean, you look at all the other quarterbacks. You look at Tua, led the NFL in passing yards. Dak Prescott led the NFL in passing touchdowns. I do think voters fatigue did play a role for Lamar Jackson not winning the MVP. I have no problem with Josh Allen winning it because I was making the case for him early on. He deserved it based on his play, based on what he meant. If you take Josh Allen out of the equation, imagine how Buffalo would be. And plus, narratives as well, too, Champ. They're going to make the argument, well, Josh Allen doesn't have Derrick Henry running the football, even though he does have James Cook, who, even though is no Derrick Henry, but still a damn good running back. And also, too, with the narratives with Josh Allen. Hey, a couple of years ago, it struggled for the Bills so bad with Sean McDermott because he was on the hot seat at one point as far as losing his job. And they were able to get to the conference championship game. Speaking of which, I do think I don't think they factored the playoffs, but I do think how the way Lamar performed in the playoffs against the Bills, who knows? And it's just pure speculation. I think they probably used that against them. I am shocked though with Josh Allen winning it. Not saying again he doesn't deserve it. want to make it abundantly clear, he does deserve it. But I am shocked because for a guy who made second team All-Pro just like John Elway, he won the league MVP. But Lamar, who put up great numbers this season, him and Burrow are right up there as far as touchdown to interception ratio. 4,000 yards, made first team All-Pro, helped the Ravens get to the number 3 seed in the AFC, and he didn't even win league MVP. I don't it has to be voters fatigue. And if it's not voters fatigue, then the media, then y'all got to be consistent. Y'all got to be consistent as far as your criteria, your standards. Because to me, and you can't put this on the players. You have to put this on yourself. Because it seems like there's a bias. There seems like there's something, I don't know, champ. I just think that the media in this one, they're being inconsistent. What says you? Am I wrong?
Honestly, they were consistent. Because remember, last year, it wasn't necessarily about the stats. Otherwise, Josh Allen would have won.
Okay.
This year, they did the same thing. And I've been beating the drum for Lamar to win because I was saying MV3. I would have loved to have seen that. But I digress. And this year, they kept the same energy. It's not going to be necessarily about the stats. For the viewers out here, if you don't mind PSP, let me take 2 minutes of the time.
Go ahead.
Let me give you all a history lesson. There's been plenty of times where in the MVP race that other players have had the better stats, but wasn't necessarily the most valuable player. Let's go take a trip back 14 years ago in 2011. Drew Brees versus the great Aaron Rodgers. Remember, that year, who led the league in passing? Aaron Rodgers. Who led the league in passing? As far as yards? Drew Brees. Who led the league in touchdowns? Drew Brees. Who led the league in completion percentage? Drew Brees. Who set the NFL record for most yards per game with 336 yards per game? Drew Brees. He set every record and made in not only completing percentage, but in every statistical category. Drew Brees ruled the NFL across the board in passing. Not to mention, he was the second seed in the NFC. He was the second seed. Who'd they give it to? Who had less passing touchdowns? Who had less yards? A lower completing percentage and everything. They gave it to Aaron Rodgers. But if you really want to, let's take another trip back. Let's go back, let's say 30 years ago from that. 31 years ago from 2011. Let's go back to 1990. Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, Joe Montana. That MVP race. Who led the league in every statistical category that year? Warren Moon. And matter of fact, he won Offensive Player of the Year. Who had the better year statistically than both of them? Randall Cunningham had over 3,700 yards passing, had over 30 touchdowns, over 900 yards rushing, and 7 touchdowns. Matter of fact, for the Pro Football Writers Association, Randall Cunningham was the MVP. For the Pro Football Writers Association, he won the MVP that year. But guess who was the AP MVP? Who was the NFL MVP? Joe Montana. And his stats didn't hold a candle to Randall Cunningham and Warren Moon that year. So that just goes to show you those two examples alone show you a prime example of it's not necessarily about the stats. And they kept the same energy that it was last year. Because if they would have changed it, people would have been crying bloody murder about it. So they kept the same energy. Okay, this is not about the stats. Who had the better record? Who did more with less? Remember, last year, Lamar Jackson didn't necessarily have a overall number one receiver. Remember, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, they were hurt most of the year.
Yes.
So on offense, he was doing more with less. So they did keep the same energy. I just think that Lamar Jackson, his year was so spectacular, it was so hard to ignore. But they kept the same energy the press did as they did last year. This is not about stats. This is about winning. What did you do with less? And guess what? Josh Allen did a hell of a lot more with less. And please, people, do not start giving us that situation. Well, he's in a weak division. So was Tom Brady. So was Peyton Manning. After Steve McNair left the NFC South and went to Baltimore in 2005, Peyton Manning almost had a decade by himself in that division. There was no contender in that division. None. So let's cut all of that out. Although I wanted Lamar Jackson to win the MVP, it was not a robbery. They kept the same energy that they did last year. Because otherwise, if they would have based it on stats this year, then Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy would have won the MVP last year. Or, like I said, Josh Allen would have won last year. Because, like I said, he had the highest usage rate of any quarterback in history not to win the MVP. And he was used 85% of the time. So they kept the same energy. It was consistent. Now I understand that people will say, well, the MVP is not a lifetime achievement award. No, it's not. I agree with you there. But if for any stretch of games, who would have lasted longer? If Lamar Jackson this year would have missed, let's say, 3 or 4 games, I would say, and Josh Allen would have missed like 3 or 4 games, who do you think, which team do you think would have lasted through those 4 games? Baltimore or Buffalo?
Well, we know the answer to that question.
Exactly. That's the definition of value. The value you add not only to your team, but the value that you hold in the NFL. So guess what? They kept the same energy, just like they did last year. Because otherwise, if they would have changed it to stats, if it would have been about the stats last year, Josh Allen would have won last year. It wasn't about stats last year. It was about wins, doing more with less. So
I think Dak Prescott would have won this year.
Yeah, either Dak or Josh Allen would have won it last year. One of the two. So if they would have kept that same energy that they did as far as the stats are concerned, then it would have been a different MVP last year. But they kept it consistent. This is not about stats. It's about wins. It's about how far, what you was able to do with less. And guess what? When you think about the Buffalo Bills, you go no further than Josh Allen. You don't really think about, although James Cook is a very, very serviceable and good running back, you don't necessarily think about him. He's an afterthought when it comes to Josh Allen. There is no Thurman Thomas on that team as far as the Buffalo Bills are concerned. Hasn't been one on there in a while. But when you think about...
Go ahead, Champ.
My bad.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, my fault.
And when you think about how valuable he is to that team, it's not comparable. So they kept the same energy, man. And guess what? Big ups to the NFL for staying consistent. You said it wasn't about stats last year, but you kept that same energy this year. So I got to commend you on not switching up. Although I wanted Lamar Jackson to win, I commend you for keeping the same energy and keeping the same consistency. That's what it's about, consistency. And I, for one, even as a Lamar Jackson fan, cannot be mad at that.
Not to mention, Champ, that Peyton Manning has made first team All-Pro 7 times. So by that logic, he probably would have won at least 7 MVPs, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah. I mean, there's been many, like I said, Josh Allen is the modern day. I'll say he's more talented than John Elway was. He's more talented, I would say. Because like I said, he's the running. There was a time before James Cook got there, Josh Allen was the running game and the passing game. He was throwing for 4,000 yards a season and then going out there running for almost 800. It didn't look pretty, but I think that's how come people don't label him. I think that's why people don't label him as the typical running quarterback, but because it don't look pretty. But he's been an average of almost 600 to 700 yards a season. So he's one of the greatest running quarterbacks of all time.
Not to mention going back to his days in Wyoming, people have forgotten how athletic he was going back to Wyoming.
Yeah. So Josh Allen, man, he's like I said, he's the modern day version, a more talented and more athletic version of John Elway. Like I said, as far as talent, I didn't say he was better. As far as talent, he has more talent than Elway. But yeah, they kept the same energy, and the right guy won. The right guy won, and I am not mad at this MVP voting. At least they didn't come out of the woodwork with some stuff just out of the heel. But you couldn't have gone wrong with either one of those. And if you really ask me, somebody was going to be mad either way. Let's just keep it real. If Lamar Jackson would have won, they would have said, well, how come we ain't keep the same energy as that last year? You can rest assured they would say, how come we ain't make it about stats last year? If it's going to be based on stats, then Josh Allen should have won last year. So guess what? The NFL said, okay, we're going to keep that same energy this year, and we're going to give it to Josh Allen since it's not going to be about stats. It's going to be about team success, doing more with less, and, doing what you need to do. They graded on the same scale that Lamar won it last year. So guess what? Hey, y'all was going to be, people were going to be mad either way.
They were going to be mad. But I'm kind of shocked. That's like you one minute you going from a meal at Chick-fil-A to now all of a sudden a salad, in which you showed me a picture of you eating that salad from earlier.
I'm gonna get you, but I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. But yeah, that was a real damn. That was from Panera Bread, by the way. You should try it. But
why do you think you call me the New Jersey genius?
Yeah, but that's a big switch up, if you do will, and if I couldn't have said it better. At least you didn't switch up. You kept the same consistency, man. You didn't switch from Chick-fil-A to a salad. So hey, I'm glad the NFL kept that same energy, and big ups to them. And like I said, there was no way either one of these guys were going to win the MVP, and it goes and everybody would have went away quiet. Because if, like I said, and I hate to be redundant and regurgitate the same information, but if Lamar Jackson would have won, you would have had everybody talking about, it should have been about stats. It should be about stats. If it was going to be about stats, then Josh Allen should have won last year. But and now they just kept the same energy and moved on. I hate the nickname that they gave Josh Allen because I think it's inappropriate for people to be calling him that, especially during these times. Stop saying that stuff. That's inappropriate. Don't do that. Don't try to discredit the man's MVP. That's inappropriate, and especially when you are relating that to something that's serious. This is football. This is not real life. Granted, we all love football, but for y'all to be calling Josh Allen that nickname for his MVP, that is flat out atrocious. Stop doing that. That name, right before the MVP, is very serious, and we don't need to be relating that to football. I'm sorry to get political on your show, PSP, but that's not an appropriate name.
No, it's fine. I totally understand. Just like I said with the Nico Harrison situation, although it was a horrible trade on his part, but still, the death threat's totally unacceptable. I just think fans are going too far. But like I said, you can't ask for a better fan base than Bills Mafia.
No. Hey man, every time they go out, they know they got to show out. So Bills Mafia, man, yeah, I'm glad he won the MVP for that fan base. They haven't had something to hang their hat on, to really hang their hat on since the Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas days. So you got to be happy about that for that fan base, one of the greatest fan bases in the world. But y'all, please stop calling Josh Allen that name. That's inappropriate.
All right. BRF, what are your thoughts? Did you think Josh Allen deserved it?
They made the right call. Because remember, for the majority of the season, I was really beating the Josh Allen MVP train. It's just that I thought Lamar Jackson's numbers were just so ridiculous to the point where I just thought he was going to get it. But to be honest with you, they made the right call. Because I mean, you look at it. I bring up these points with Lamar Jackson as far as why he won the MVP last year because I know because like I was saying it was the all well if it was about stat last year Josh Allen or Dak Prescott would have won it. First of all, I'm not giving an MVP to somebody with over 20 turnovers. I'm just not doing it. But another thing I'm looking at it from the perspective of when you look at Lamar Jackson late in the season, he beat 10 playoff teams last year. He beat 10 playoff teams last year and just the level of play just accelerated and just he really elevated himself going up against really, really, really good competition late in the season and was beating everybody. So I get that. Yeah. So they kept this. They kept the same energy with Josh Allen. He didn't have as many noteworthy wins against good teams as Lamar Jackson did last year. But it seems like when the biggest moments occurred during the season, it was Josh Allen. The fourth down run against Kansas City that scored a touchdown. The game against Detroit where he absolutely just demolished that defense, and even the game against LA where they lost. But I mean, he just did Josh Allen things and destroyed that defense as well. So I definitely do think they made the right call because I mean we were all questioning it after Stephon Diggs left, not having like a true number one. What was Josh Allen was going to do? I feel like with Stephon Diggs leaving, it took a lot of pressure off of Josh Allen not having to force feed the ball to a guy with a number one wide receiver mindset, just having to have the ball and not committing as many turnovers, not making as many bad plays because he didn't have that burden. He didn't have that pressure to just force feed Stephon Diggs. And I think honestly, probably that's where a lot of his interceptions came from was trying to force feed Stephon Diggs. So he didn't have that constant nagging in his ear to get him the ball, and he was able to focus and really distribute the ball with all of his weapons and all of the skilled position players that he had at his disposal. He was able to do a lot better job at playing the quarterback position and actually being a true to the game quarterback. So yeah, so absolutely, the NFL I feel made the right decision giving Josh Allen this award because if and that was my biggest argument. If you're looking at the criteria for what MVP is, and that V being valuable, Josh Allen was the most valuable player. And I hear people say, well, if you take Josh Allen off Buffalo and you take Lamar Jackson off of Baltimore, which team lasts longer? On paper, yes, it's Baltimore. But my problem with that is I don't trust whoever's backing up Lamar Jackson to run that offense to the same efficiency and level that he does. So honestly, do I really think they still win as much without Lamar Jackson? No, I honestly don't, because I don't think another quarterback in that scheme can run that offense to the level of Lamar Jackson. I don't. So I think it's more of a push. I don't think neither team really wins that much. Just from the simple standpoint, the drop off is so great to the backup. I don't think neither team succeeds without either quarterback. But I just feel I'll just say the Buffalo Bills without Josh Allen is probably about 5 times worse because of the fact that the skill position players as a whole aren't as good with the Buffalo Bills as they are the Baltimore Ravens. I'll say the Baltimore Ravens probably give you more of a fighting chance with the skill position players, but I just still don't think they win. I think it's still the same as far as like win level because I don't trust either backup. But Josh Allen to me really stood out the most during the regular season in the biggest moments, and I really hope they didn't use that playoff game against Lamar Jackson to decide this is a regular season award for a reason. I got in a debate on shout out to the Atlanta Falcons network to the Discord. I kind of got in a debate. We were talking about coach of the year, and I said flat out Kevin O'Connell's going to win it, and I don't think it's even that close. And some people were arguing Quinn, but they were talking about he got them to the NFC Championship game. I'm like, y'all, it's a regular season award. Kevin O'Connell is going to smoke this and win the regular season and win the Coach of the Year. And sure enough, Kevin O'Connell won Coach of the Year. It's a regular season award. Josh Allen did more with less, stepped up to the plate in the big time situations the most. He proved his value to the Buffalo Bills time in and time out. The fact that he had them as the number 2 seed in the AFC, not having the skill position of talent as say the Baltimore Ravens. He didn't have the skill position talent, but when it was time to show up, Josh Allen did that. So I absolutely think they made the right decision. That's why I don't necessarily want to say it's voter fatigue. I don't agree that it's voter fatigue because, like Champ said, I'm right there with Champ. The NFL showed consistency. they actually gave it to the most valuable player for their team, and that was clearly Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills in terms of what they lost and what they brought back, and how he was able to just maintain a high level of play and overachieve with the roster that he had. I'm not saying it's a bad roster; it's a good roster, but he did overachieve a little bit with that team to get the number 2 seed in the AFC. So I absolutely think that the NFL owners made the right choice as far as giving Josh Allen that MVP award. And yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off of what Jam said. Like, yeah, the stuff that they're saying about him, like I've seen, like it's a pity MVP. I saw the name that Champ's talking about. I know exactly what he's talking about. We all know what he's talking about. Nah, man, Josh Allen absolutely deserved this award. I do not think this was one bit a pity award. The NFL just stuck to the script and just stuck to the code of what the most valuable player award is, and that was Josh Allen. So shout out to Josh Allen. He absolutely deserves this award, and he definitely made the right choice. I do think Lamar Jackson's numbers made it really, really close because the votes was like 27 to 23. So he made it like really, 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 really close. But at the end of the day, they stuck to the criteria and they made the right decision. So shout out to Josh Allen. He absolutely deserved this award, and it was definitely the right decision.
That's all I was saying. Like with the MVP, like I don't have a problem with Lamar winning it. If it were Cole MVP, which that probably won't happen, you couldn't be wrong with it either way. But I said it before. I picked Allen because if you take without Josh Allen, how would Buffalo be? He does have the signature wins. And if we're going to be consistent, okay, Lamar last year, he didn't put up the numbers. But if you take away him out of the equation, how good would Baltimore be? And Josh Allen did have narrative coming into the season. First year without Stephon Diggs. How would the Bills be offensively? They even had to pick up Amari Cooper in a trade. He even had to work with Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Florida State. 28 touchdown passes to only 6 interceptions. What was the knock on Allen? Since he came into the NFL, he led the league in turnovers. He has rectified that issue so far. And the signature wins, giving Kansas City their first loss. That's what I mentioned. Giving Detroit their first loss since week 2. I mentioned that. I mentioned a
Hold on,
lot of
I'll be right
things.
back. I'll be right back, y'all.
No problem, BRF. I mentioned a lot of things for Josh Allen's factor. But it is champ though. It is confusing though. I'll give you credit. They were consistent. But it is kind of confusing though. Like 1 minute it was Josh Allen, then the next minute it's Lamar. As long as you keep it consistent, that's fine with me. But it's going to be interesting heading into next year. But that's another story for another day for the MVP. I would have loved to see Saquon gotten more votes. I'm not saying Saquon would have won it, but I would like to see Saquon receive a little bit more votes. That's just my opinion because of the year that he had. Because if you take away Saquon out of the equation, okay, how would Philadelphia be? They still would be a playoff caliber team. We saw what they were last season, even with their struggles. But if you take away Saquon out of the equation, but Chad, like I said, I was kind of thinking voters fatigue at once because again, they probably didn't want to see Lamar win it. But to your point, yes, we're being consistent. Lamar won the MVP, and he didn't put up spectacular numbers. Allen, you can actually look at his numbers; they were much better than Lamar's numbers when he won the MVP the second time, as far as touchdown to interception ratio and with the yards. And he had and of course the victories as well. I think because of the signature wins, considering the fact that they were prime time as well, and the fact that he did get them to the number 2 seed in Buffalo. But you can, however, make the argument for Lamar to win the MVP because even though we did have expectations for the Buffalo Bills, did we expect Lamar Jackson to throw 40 touchdowns, 4,000 yards? Mind you, this is the first time in his professional career he's thrown for over 4,000 yards and to be right up there with the touchdown interception ratio with Joe Burrow. Who did anyone imagine Lamar Jackson doing that?
I mean,
Nah.
no, but You know, Todd Monken has definitely done one hell of a job with Lamar.
He certainly has, which is why he should get a head coaching job.
And I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon because they just locked that man for a multi-year contract. Now, granted, contracts, can and will change when it comes to team wanting head coaches. But if I'm Baltimore, I'm keeping Todd Monken in-house for years to come, for as long as Lamar Jackson is on that team, which is going to be a long time because I think, Lamar's only like 26, was only 27, 28 years old.
He's 28 now.
He's only 28 years old. So for as long as Lamar is on this team, I'm making sure I keep Todd Monken on this team in order to keep the development up, in order to elevate him as a quarterback and keep him on track. But hey, you couldn't, like I said, this is one of those MVPs where nobody would have been satisfied. And
I don't look at it as like a Shaq or a Steve Nash MVP champ.
I don't see it that way either, but I'm going to say this MVP had a lot of other undertones about it. And that's why I said a lot of people wouldn't be happy about it if you would have gone either way. So it was a lot of narrative outside of football, kind of like the whole Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese situation and stuff like that. It was a lot of undertones as far as that was concerned. If you can't read between the lines on that one, shame on you. So, yeah, but you couldn't have went wrong with either one, man. I mean, both of them had a hell of a season. These are two of the best. This is some of the greatest football we've seen.
I can't believe you didn't bring up this point, Chip. Isn't it a reason as to why the NFL has been getting more of the ratings than the NBA, even with the MVP? Even after when Josh Allen won it, even though some people may say it's controversial, I don't think it's controversial. But we are talking about it. And guess what? The NFL, even though it is controversial, hey, we've been consistent. And simultaneously, we are getting our ratings. We are getting our headlines. We are getting our views. Can't be mad at that.
That's why a lot of I would say billionaires want to buy an NFL team because it's a money printing machine. Because the thing is this, in just 3 more weeks, we're looking at the combine.
Oh, yes. And then after that, and don't forget the pro day.
Look at that pro day. Then the draft. So NFL covers news year round. That's news coverage that money can't buy. The only industry that covers themselves kind of like the NFL is the music industry because it's year round, and wrestling. So when you think about that, it's so many narratives in the NFL that you can write on a week-to-week basis as a journalist. That's how come it took something drastic in the NBA, like the Luka trade, in order for us to get us to pay attention to it. Because before that, we really wasn't paying attention to it. It took that. Because look at the stories that the NFL is producing now. And in a couple of weeks, we're finna start talking about Jalen Monroe and the new draft class that's coming in. So
Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and it's gonna be great, man. This is why football.
Yeah.
But again, man, shout outs to Josh Allen for winning the MVP. Really good football season. And look, next year, I think it's going to be even bigger with the MVP because, hey, with Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, and then hopefully if my guy Jaden Daniels can do something for year 2. You never know, Washington. You never know. But let's talk about another great.
I'll throw one in there for a long shot, dark horse, or a guy, Michael Penix Jr. I ain't ashamed to say it. I'm throwing him in there.
Oh, Lord.
I have every right to throw him in there. I have every right to throw him in there. Telling you now.
We ended off the conversation pretty well. Now you just made Champ spill his water and everything. And it's getting to a point. Champ may have to go get a drink right after this.
No,
all right,
no,
okay.
No,
all right.
Drinking. I'm from 40 days sober, so now I'm good.
Oh, all right, okay. When the boy go off next year, don't say I didn't say nothing.
Not an MVP award though, bro.
Could you?
Okay.
BRF,
okay.
BRF, you could have at least said Pro Bowl. You could have at least said NSC winning the title, the NFC South.
Okay. All righty. I ain't saying nothing else about it. Y'all will see next year.
All right,
If, if,
but remember,
I'm just
we got a
saying,
bet. We got a Super Bowl bet.
if everybody can get hot takes, how come I can't give a hot take? I'm just saying.
First of all, you're one of the elder people. You're supposed to be the wiser people. You're not supposed to be hot take Kenny with his crazy takes from time to time.
Oh no! Look! I never give them. That's why I have room to do that because I never do it. So I can give one every once in a while.
All right, fine. I'm gonna clip this. I will definitely clip this tomorrow, and I will definitely post a video of you saying Michael Penix Jr. dark horse for the MVP. But hey, look, I appreciate the fact that you standing on principle. I'll give you that. But let's talk about last Sunday, the Grammys. Boy, Super Bowl. We got two black quarterbacks. Black History Month is here. Beyonce becoming the first black artist to win a country album. She also won Album of the Year. And then, of course, Kendrick Lamar, who is the headline performer for this year's Super Bowl sweep. 5 for 5. Man, this was a great moment for the Grammys. They kept playing Not Like Us. You can even hear Taylor Swift dancing. But this was a great month. This has been a great historic event for the Grammys, man. Man, Black History Month, man. What better way for Beyonce to win to become the first black artist to win a country album, and her response was just like everyone else's. It is huge. And Kendrick, nothing else to say. After all, that's why he is performing in this year's Super Bowl. Even though a lot of people in New Orleans, and I would love to see Wayne perform, but you can't go wrong with Kendrick after the year he had in 2024 with Not Like Us. Champ, your thoughts?
Oh man, let's not forget about the I can't pronounce her name to save my life.
Oh yes, for the best rap album.
Yes, let's not forget about her too. Let's not forget about her. You know, it would be an injustice to leave her out. So
talking about Dochi?
Dochi, yes. I can't pronounce my name. I got my degree in computers, not spelling. So
especially her speech.
Yes. So yes. Dochi, Beyonce, Kendrick. Rule the night, baby. Yes. I love it. Gotta love black excellence, man. Hey, gotta love black excellence, man. So I'm proud of Kendrick. Beyonce, biggest icon in modern day times. One of the biggest icons, I would say. So I put her right. I can't put her past Michael and Prince, but I can put her right up there with, because that's how big she is. When her tickets go on sale, they gonna sell out. So she's that big of an icon. I mean, in every sense of the word. And for her to, it's one thing to win in your genre. Like, I'll use this as an example. It's one thing for me to win a debate in sports because that's my forte. I've been doing it for years. But if you throw me into a debate on, let's say, quantum physics, and I win that, that's monumental because nobody really expects that. And not to mention with all of the criticisms that, you know, she received of, you know, well, she doesn't embed herself in country music. Hell, there's been a lot of rappers that wasn't necessarily embedded in hip hop, yet they won awards. Look at Post Malone. Look at some of those. Look at Hannah Montana. They sold albums in hip hop. It wasn't necessarily hip hop. So let's stop it. Music is music. And if it's good music, let it play. If it's not, turn it off. Kendrick. what can you say, man? You know, Kendrick is the hottest right now. But the reason how you say her name again? Dochi?
Dochi.
Dochi.
Mm-hmm.
She is the modern day version. She is a mixture of, I will say, India Arie, and Lauryn Hill.
I like that.
She is a mixture of India Arie and Lauryn Hill, because I was listening to some of her music and it just sounds so conscious and it makes you think, just like those two artists. So big ups to her, man, because I mean, she's talented and her wordplay is great. She's not, and I'm trying to put this in a kind way because I don't want to discredit anybody, because Lord knows I love, you know, the other artists, you know, Lotto and Meg Thee Stallion, but she's doing it different in a different day and age. She's not talking about the usual things. In fact, she's talking about the opposite of that and what to do opposite of that. That's how come I compared her. If you combine India Arie and Lauryn Hill together, you would get Dochi, because she's talking about different things than that. She's not talking about all of the other stuff. And like I said, no disrespect to Meg and Lotto, because I am a big fan of both of them, but it's nice to have that breath of fresh air, because you need all of them. Just like back in the day, we needed Little Kim and Foxy Brown, but we needed somebody to go outside of that, like an India Arie and a Lauryn Hill. Dochi is what they were back then. That's what she is now. And that's why I mention her a lot, because for Beyonce to win the award, yes, she's outside of her genre, her normal genre, but at the end of the day, she's an icon. Kendrick Lamar to win an award, yes, he's the hottest thing smoking right about now, but he's been put in GOAT conversation for almost last couple of years now. For her to win the award and to do it differently than her peers are doing it, that's what you call spectacular. And I'm glad that the conscious rap is kind of, especially on the women's side of it, is making a comeback with Dochi, because I like her style, man. That young lady is very, very talented, and she beautiful as hell too, man. She's beautiful as hell. Love her hair. So, you know, big ups to her, man.
BRF.
Not Like Us is officially the greatest diss track in the history of hip hop. It's officially the greatest diss track in the history of hip hop. This man took a diss track to the hip hop. This man took a diss track to the Grammys and won 5 of them things. Won 5
with a Canadian suit.
In a Canadian tuxedo on top of that. In a Canadian tuxedo on top of that. Drake don't go to the Grammys for at least about 5 years. Just don't go. Stay home. Don't, when the Grammys come around, just don't go. Don't go. But to get the kidding out the way, great night for Kendrick. I think he kind of really cemented his legacy as one of the greatest voices in the history of hip hop. Just off of one song, but Kendrick's been doing this for like a decade. He's been doing this, like whether it's Good Kid, Mad City, whether it's the Damn album, whether it's the Mr. Morale album, like it doesn't matter. Kendrick's been doing this, and I'm loving the fact that he's getting this recognition, winning the Grammys, just being, just establishing himself as one of the greatest voices in the history of the genre. I love seeing it, because I remember his first song when I first heard it. His first song that I heard that blew up was The Recipe, him and Dre. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, I like him. He's about that. He's like that. And seeing him now is just like, I'm not surprised, because I just felt he had it. So I'm not surprised he's doing this. So shout out to Kendrick. Like I said, Not Like Us is the greatest diss track in the history of hip hop, and the Grammys kind of solidified it with him winning 5 awards. Beyonce, I want somebody to tell me why Beyonce isn't country without naming the obvious, and don't worry, I'll wait on that. So just shout out to her for experimenting in an entire new genre and stepping out, but continually establishing her voice and her talent, being what it is, and just winning country album of the year. Like, what more can there be said about Beyonce that hasn't already been said? She's one of the greatest entertainers in the history of music. I mean, like she's not the greatest of all time. For me, that's still Michael Jackson. And like I said, yeah, like Champ said, Prince is definitely still up there. Um, but it's Beyonce kind of making a claim to that. She is, and we can't deny it anymore because she's one of the, like I said, her concerts are always, she shows up and shows out for all of her concerts. You expect an A+ performance when she's on stage. But the voice, I personally think Beyonce has one of the most underrated voices in the history of music. I don't think her voice gets enough credit for how good of a singer she is. I don't think she gets enough credit that she actually deserves for just actually being able to sing and being
I
able
think
to
it's her
sing.
songwriting. I think it's the songwriting.
Yeah, just like she just yeah, but it's just like her voice is just she's got one of the greatest voices, and it's just when I mean, you know what I'm saying, we practically, like, we practically seen her grow up from like the beginning of Destiny's Child up to this point, becoming what and seeing where she is right now. And just like, I mean, she kind of she deserves the success because she's busted her butt since day one to get here. And just I mean, she's like she's just becoming the ultimate, like, if you want to call her a triple threat, she's becoming like one of the ultimate triple threats because, like, her singing and her ability to dance, and she's pretty good actress in her own right too. You can't say some of the movies she's been in we haven't liked, because I
Obsessed.
loved Obsessed with her and
Her and
Idris
Idris
Elba. I
Elba.
loved that movie. And then the range with Goldmember, the Austin Powers movie. I mean, and
Mike
Dreamgirls.
Myers.
I
Yeah.
I love, and yeah, like Gold, yeah, her range in Goldmember, and then Dreamgirls was one of my favorite movies. I love Dreamgirls. So it's just she's just we we got to give Beyonce her flowers while she's still young and she's still performing at a high level. We got to give them to her. She's one of the greatest. She's one of the greatest, and she's continually establishing herself. And as far as Doechii goes, she's the future, man. She's the future. I mean, the future of hip hop is in good hands with her, in great hands with her, and like her lyricism and just her overall talent, just like, the things she raps about and how eloquent she is just like it. Like I said, like, to the Lottos and the Meg the Stallions, who are very lyrically gifted in their own right, rapping about their own thing. This is definitely not to take away from them because they're lyrically gifted in their own right. They're two of the best. They're two of the best lyricists from a women's standpoint we've heard in a long time as well. But Doechii is just like Champ said, the consciousness of her rap. Like it's like when you have music like hip hop, and then you have those that go out there and just rap about, the normal things, the obvious things that you see on a daily basis, the flashy things. You need the balance. You need the consciousness. For every, like, for every Lil Wayne, you need a Common. For every Ti, you need a Talib Kweli. You know what I'm saying? For every Lotto, you need a Doechii. You know what I'm saying? You need somebody like this to kind of balance the scales, to show you there's more to the world than just the flashiness of it. So I love it. I think it's a great thing, and I hope she could continue more success. And if y'all ain't heard her, y'all need to listen to it because the chick is one of the most talented out there. And shout out to her. She doing the thing, and I'm proud of her for doing what she's doing. So shout out to all three, man. That was just an excellent night. And like you said, PSP, that was black excellence at its finest. And us being black men, doing sports content in the world of media and stuff like that. How can we not be any more prouder seeing them do their thing on the grandest stage of music? How can we not be any more proud than that? Shout out to all three of them.
For me, it's Kendrick, man, because 10, 11 years ago, remember, no disrespect, but Malcolm when he won them Grammys, now what is everyone got to say about Kendrick now? People, stay away from Kendrick. Don't dare him in another beef. Please do not. Male or female, stay away from Kendrick. Stay away from Kendrick.
Hey, I think it's ill-advised to go toe-to-toe with any West Coast artist because I'm going to just be real. Whenever you talk about the West Coast, they put out, you diss a West Coast artist, and they come out with some of the greatest diss songs that you ever want to have. Granted, they're not, are not like us. We haven't seen one of that magnitude that won a Grammy. But when you think about some of the greatest diss songs of all time, all of them came from the West Coast. When you think about No Vaseline, West Side Slaughterhouse, Hit 'Em Up, Dre Day,
Real Compton G's.
Real Compton G's.
I can't say the exact term. You know which term I cannot say. Rest his soul, Easy E.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to BG Knockout and Gangsta Drayster as well.
Yes.
Oh, and let's not forget, man, before Kendrick, man, look, let's give flowers to the game. 300 bars.
Yes.
So don't go, and took down G Unit at a time when it was at their hottest. And you know what it is, Volume 3 was that deal. So, hey, if you want I would say this, you want your career to end fast in the rap game, go against the West Coast artists and see what happens to you.
But honestly, it was a great moment, y'all. Really big ups, especially with Beyonce, especially what she has to go through, with the thing with Jay-Z. But it was just great seeing her, Jay-Z, and their daughter there. It was just great. The rapper, I still can't forget the female rapper's name, Dochi. But it was great though, because again, a lot of times, like, I gotta be honest with y'all, when I listen to the rap music, no disrespect to Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Glorilla, but I do want to hear a woman with conscience. You don't get that nowadays. You really don't. I mean, and I've never heard to hear her, it's refreshing. It feels brand new. It feels like, oh, okay, this is something different. This is something unique. Because a lot of times with the female rappers like Lotto and stuff, they talk about the same thing over and over again. Nah, she's deep, conscientious, smart, sophisticated, articulate. That's something that you want to hear from a woman. And to hear that, that's actually dope. It's kind of like listening to Common. Common is one of the most underrated rappers to me because he is conscientious. Doesn't get enough credit. Him and Talib Kweli. So I gotta give them that. But it was a great moment, y'all. But last two comments. Last two topics, y'all. wrestling. Favorite Eugene moment. I gotta go with him and Triple H. The promos that they cut, what culminated to their match with SummerSlam. And the other moment was when he broke Kurt Angle's record. Remember, Kurt Angle had some type of record for the ankle lock. How long? Eugene. But I just love the fact that he was comical when he used every signature move, the Rock's rock bottom, Stone Cold Stunner. Him and Triple H, though. And that's why one of the reasons why Triple H, since we talk about somebody deserving their flowers, Triple H, rightfully so, deserves his flowers. Them promos, he and Eugene cut, and also with William Regal. Whew. Whoever wants to go.
I'll go. I go this time. But yeah, I don't think really no Eugene moment really stands out for me outside of like the Triple H stuff and just him saying that Triple H was his favorite wrestler. That honestly, that whole angle was just.
The Rock was pissed.
Let me tell you something. That angle nowadays, no. Particularly with Eugene's character, just it's a no go. So you kind of already testing the boundaries with Eugene's character as it is, but like the whole arc of like Triple H being his favorite wrestler and just wanting to be around him and hanging around him, the shooting, hanging with him at the bouncy house and all that other stuff, just like just everything tying in, and then Eugene finally seeing Triple H for who he was at the time, and that match at SummerSlam was pretty underrated, man. If y'all haven't seen that SummerSlam match, go watch it. Cause that match was actually pretty underrated. Like Eugene, was it a world champion gimmick? No, but it served its purpose for what it was. Like it was comedic. But then I love the fact that they added that he could get serious when he needed to get serious. The whole, the superhuman strength angle of the character and all this other stuff. I mean, it was just for the time it was different and it was fresh and it was a really good angle. Although that angle wouldn't last a week today, it was good for what it was then. I would say that one, and then the moment where Coach was just running him down and told him to get out the ring, and then The Rock shows up, and then that was like the first instance of them saying like Triple H was his favorite wrestler, and Rock kind of looked at him like, boy, don't you see me like standing right here, and you gonna say that? but yeah, those are the two for me that stand out. My favorite, is probably that entire Triple H angle, just because of the I don't know, like for the time it was fresh and it was different and it was entertaining and it kept you on the edge of the seat, because if we remember the Triple H character then, it's one of the greatest heels in the history of the company, and the fact that Eugene is like pushing him to the limit, it was actually really cool. It was cool to see. So for me, that's the one that really stands out. But either one of those two were really big for me with the Eugene character. But it was a shame that it was a shame it fell off the way it did, even though we all kind of saw it coming. But just the arc and the highs that it had really good highs. So it was different, but it was fun.
Jap?
Oh man, I like the Eugene character. People don't realize that the reason why that character came about. I forget the name of the trainer, but the reason why that character was created was to pay tribute to a wrestler's son who had his own needs. Which we will say. That was why his character was created. He created that character in order to inspire his son and to pay tribute to his son. So big ups to him. And I know people get the wrong ideas when characters like that are made, but that was actually done to pay tribute to a wrestler's son. Like I said, I think the name, I forget the name of the wrestler, but it was actually because Eugene, much like a lot of other guys, started in Ohio Valley Wrestling. So, big ups to guys like Cornette and the WWE for finding talent. Granted, he didn't have a world title run, but Eugene's character served his purpose. And, I love the fact that William Regal was, kind of Eugene's keeper. And it's kind of like, that little brother that you just got to keep out of trouble. Because remember when Eugene had that T-shirt launcher, he was launching T-shirts in the crowd, and he accidentally hit William Regal with it.
Yeah,
that was one of the funniest things.
Shout out to William Regal, man. Shout out to William Regal, bro.
Yeah, William Regal, and they won the tag team titles together, man. That was special, man. that was very special. I enjoyed that character. Not to mention, man, look, Triple H put Eugene over in that match at SummerSlam. I hate to steal y'all's thunder, but for Eugene to go through that match and use every single finisher that you could ever think of, he even used the leg drop.
Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
He even used the leg drop. I mean, remember he used the stunner and everything. Even gave him the salute, then gave him the stunner. So that one was good. I remember Eric Bischoff, that was Eric Bischoff's nephew, so to speak. So for him being Eric Bischoff's nephew, you really want to see him win at a certain point, simply because you just couldn't stand Eric Bischoff. So that whole angle was great, man. And like I said, for William Regal to kind of step in and be that big brother to, Eugene's little brother is kind of was great. And like I said, I'll never forget him. And like I said, it reminded you of that because remember when Triple H put Eugene in the hospital, and I never forget William Regal and Triple H on live on Raw. He literally came out there with a suit, and within the next 2 minutes was in his wrestling gear. They went out there and had a knockdown drag out. That was one of the best matches I ever seen William Regal do, and it was with Triple H. So he even brought out the brass knucks and everything. So big ups to Eugene, man, and shout out to the person who created that character to pay homage, because that is needed to pay homage. It wasn't meant to make fun of someone. It was meant to pay homage. And I'm hoping that people will do more research on that in order to see it wasn't to be comical. It was to pay homage. And we have to do a better job of paying homage, if you get what I'm saying. Read between the lines of what I'm saying.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully, champ. But he was fun. He was fun to watch. I mean, him and Kurt Angle when he broke the record, that was fun though. But Eugene, just how the fact that he unique and how good old JR, you know how good old JR is whenever he oh man, but Eugene was great. But one last topic, favorite Chingy track. I'm gonna go first. Some people may say Holiday Inn, some people may say Right There, or the track Pulling Me Back with Tyrese, One Call Away. That is my favorite Chingy track. Of all the Chingy tracks, and I was listening to the BET Plus show, Chingy was asked, do y'all have a song for like the ladies, a little something slower for the ladies? He was like, oh yeah, we got this one track, One Call Away. And then when they heard the track, it's like, is this your song? This gotta be a hit single. But yeah, Chingy, One Call Away, that was one of his best tracks. It was so unique, the music video. Who was there in that music video? That would be Keisha Knight Pulliam. For those who may not know, that was the one who used to play Rudy on the Cosby Show. And it was, and matter of fact, we didn't even see Keisha Knight Pulliam. I don't know when she was an adult at that time. Maybe she was in school or somewhere else, champ. But to see her as a grown woman in that music video with Chingy, but yeah, that track, just the beat. Shout out to Jason Weaver too, for those who may not know, who sang in the song "The Lion King." Also, a very underrated show that he was on with Omar Gooding and Taj Mowry and Sense Atkins, Smart Guy. That was the show that was on the WB from 97 to 99. If you want to watch that show, I think they still have it on Disney Plus. But just Chingy's flow, Jason Weaver, underrated voice. Really great song. The beat, One Call Away. In 04, that was the year in which I came back to the States after being there in Haiti. I listened to that track non-stop. Thank God for 106 in Park. I listen to that track all the time, man. So One Call Away. Whoever wants to go.
When it came to videos, Right There held a candle to another video. So let's just keep it real about that one. So that video held a candle to a lot of other videos, dude. And I'm not talking about the one you saw at 106 & Park. I'm talking about the one you saw at 3 in the morning. So that was a good one. That was a good job, Chingy. I appreciate you. But man.
Oh, shucks.
That's why I like PSP, man. He the more mature one out of the two of us. He the more mature because, like I said, I'm immature.
Don't be surprised, audience. We talked about other videos.
Yeah,
other videos, particularly one from Nelly, but we won't say.
Yeah, that whole that's right up there with that one. You know, that's right up there with that one. So, but I digress. Let's get back to the proceeding this evening. I think Baller Baby was a good one.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately that album didn't do too good, but I think that album, that song was a good one. Right There is one, and One Call Away. And Holiday Inn was great, man. You know, him and Snoop Dogg and Luda. You know, him being in Disturbing the Peace was very awesome, man. That was awesome. You know, I like the Chingy style, because although he was from St. Louis, he wasn't trying to, you know, necessarily be Nelly. You knew that the roots were there, and you know he was from the same. They was from the same camp, and he was from that camp. He spent off from that camp, but you know he didn't go out of his way just to be someone else. I mean, and that's big, you know. Look, there's a lot, man. Right There was great, man. I really can't, because you know, especially the dance that the girl, I think it was called a Chicken Head. She was doing in that video in the back. Yeah, I love that dance, man. I mean, so I love that dance. I couldn't do it. I got 2 left feet, but you know, I love that dance. But gotta go with Right There, Baller Baby, and Holiday
Inn. Not Right There, Right There.
I'm not that country, dude. I can't say I can right there. I can't say that. That don't roll off the tongue.
How the hell you ain't country? You from Georgia?
I know. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. I'm not from Lumpkin, Georgia. I'm from the city. I'm from the city. So, if you ask me now, you ask the guy from Lumpkin, Georgia, he probably can do that for you. You know, I know you can ask one of them cats from Macon, Georgia. Just ask BRL. They probably can say it like that.
Boy, I'm from Morgan County. I can say right there like it ain't nothing. So,
I can't say that, man. I'm from the city. We don't do that. I'm from the city. We don't do that. So we don't do that stuff down here. So I can't say that. Right there. That don't even sound right coming out. That don't even sound right coming out my mouth. But yeah, right there.
Oh, Chuck.
You sound like I'm about to throw up. No, that ain't gonna work.
BRF.
Oh Lord. Whole monologue about how to say right there. Only on the Sports PSP podcast will you get that type of entertainment. I'm telling y'all right now. If y'all ain't tuning in, tune in. Chingy. Chingy had some good ones. He had some good ones, and he had some good features too. Like one of his better features, Champ, you might remember this song, Fighting in the Club.
Yeah.
Fighting in the Club.
God.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have brought that song up. I don't think you
should. Bro, this was what 02, 03, 04. Like, bro, this was like high school for me, boy. That song was a jam. That song was would I do that? Do I believe in that? No, but the song was fire at the time. So I'm just saying, very, very good feature, very good song. Cause this was like Crunk. This was like when Crunk music was like, that was peak Crunk. So I mean, come on. I gotta show love for being from, especially being from Georgia. We gotta show love to the crunk era because for a while the crunk era just ran hip hop, whether people want to admit it or not. And that was one of the better songs that came out of the crunk era. So definitely shout out to Disturbing the Peace family. They were running it for a while. But for real, my favorite Chingy track, boy, I got a few. Let's see, yeah, yeah, definitely One Call Away, Pulling Me Back. Um, dang, I'm a, you know what? For me, my favorite one is probably mine is probably Holiday Inn. Mine's Holiday Inn because that had for one, it had one of my favorite beats for one, and I mean you can't go wrong. And I mean, for Chingy to get Snoop and Luda like at the peak of their power at the time, I mean, that's one of those where it's just like, I mean, the beat was just awesome. I mean, the flow was just perfect, and the video is like one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. So so I mean, but yeah, definitely for me, my favorite track is probably Holiday Inn. But Chingy had a few really good songs. He kind of hated that like he didn't have more as far as like the prolonged success because I mean let's be real, the Powerball album kind of killed whatever momentum he had and he could just never get it back. But yeah, shout out to Chingy. But yeah, Holiday Inn is probably my favorite track.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of crunk, next week, since y'all came up with the idea, favorite Yin Yang Twins track.
Wow. All right. All right.
Bro,
That's nice.
I could make a whole playlist of Yin Yang Twins. My God.
So stay tuned next week for the Sports PSP pod. Favorite Yin Yang track. But Chingy, man, One Call Away, man. Love that track. Holiday Inn, right there. But yeah, Chingy very underrated. 03, 04, those were some of his good years, man. And then of course the track Pulling Me Back with Tyrese. But fellas, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP pod. We all made our Super Bowl picks. We talked about the Luka trade. We talked about a lot of things. Any final words before we wrap up the show? And please let them know where to follow y'all at.
Okay, dokie. But first off, shout out, shout out to the Sports for You podcast. Shout out to John. Shout out to Trail. We had a blast last weekend. That Royal Rumble collaboration was freaking amazing. So definitely shout out to you two brothers. Um, but yeah, follow me. I can't access the TikTok right. I can't access TikTok right now because my genius self deleted the app off my phone, and because of restrictions, I can't put it back. So I don't have access to TikTok right now. So for now,
Oh,
follow
use the
me in the
computer.
IG.
Use your computer.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to use like the browsers and stuff. So, but yeah, BRF Sports is the TikTok handle. I'm like right at the 2,300 follower mark. I got to get back on it to where I got to start by making content to shoot the follower list up. So definitely follow the BRF Sports TikTok. Drell2285 is the IG. Dre2285 is the Twitter/X, and also please follow the BRF Sports Facebook page as well. Um, definitely, definitely appreciate love and support from everybody. Getting me out there and just shout out to all the friends that I've made doing this, and hopefully going to continue to make. Um, shout out to YouTube. Shout out to PSP. You're at what, over 71,000 subscribers now. I mean, bro, you doing it, and I'm proud of you for your success, champ. What you've been doing with your content and you branching out, it's just been nothing. It's been nothing short of amazing on your side too. I'm just happy to be kind of like a spoke on the wheel on any of this. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I just hope to keep it going with both of y'all. A topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. I got to leave out with the slogan, but always just much love to everybody. Thank y'all for the support, and also check us out tomorrow night too. Undisputed GOAT Sports Podcast. Me, Champ, and Flash. Check us out tomorrow night, 9 o'clock.
Yes, yes.
But
Please
we love
make sure like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Champs Podcast. Please also check out a lot of great stuff. I mean, the Georgia boys, man. And also don't forget basketball season next week. We'll definitely discuss more about the All-Star weekend, but undisputed world champ.
Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the Sports PSP podcast. Like my main man Frank just said, man, you know, I'm kind of all over the place, everywhere. Now I know how mixtape artists feel when they're trying to get put on because you know I'm kind of like all over the place. Every time you see a show, you see me on there. But I'm happy, man. But it's when they stop inviting. Like I say all the time, it's when people stop inviting you to shows. That's when you start to get worried. So I'm happy to be on every show I'm on, especially Sports PSP podcast. So you know, you gave me my break. You know, I never forget that, and I'll constantly remind everybody: without Sports PSP podcast, there will be no Undisputed GOAT podcast. So big ups to PSP for that, man. Always encouraging me to get better and do great things. Not to mention, man, shout out to BRF because him and Flash were the first guys I came and got when I did a podcast because I was like, if anybody can do a podcast, I know I could do it with those two guys because we used to do the lives every Sunday after the ball game and on Thursdays on Thursday night football. So big ups to everybody, man. And I'm just appreciative to be in this position, man. And gratitude is 90% of the battle. And I encourage everybody who's watching right now, if you don't do anything else, I know I joke and I play a lot and all of that, but this is a serious moment. If you don't do anything else, gratitude is a great thing. Being grateful is a great thing. So always show gratitude and be grateful. You can be whatever you want in this world. Just please don't be ungrateful.
Well said. Thank you, fellas, for hopping on to the pod. Please go like and follow them on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, any social media platform that they are on. Please go check out their content. They are great contributors to sports media and media in general, especially with their knowledge, man. Please go shout out to Mario Knows Best, Brendan from the Block, Kieran, Broad Sports, Hot Take Kenny, Trent. The list goes on and on. Harrison, Sports for You, Stay Tuned Live Podcast, many other great content creators, man. Please go like and subscribe to the content. People, I don't think y'all understand how much hard work we do as content creators. We put in a lot of work. We try to make sure we put out the best content available for y'all to stay tuned and enjoy and like and subscribe to the podcast. And we will continuously do that. Thank you to my friends and family for helping me with the podcast as well, for encouraging me to try podcasts. I'm loving it. It's great for me. It's therapeutic. This is something I've always envisioned me doing, and I will continue to do whatever it takes in order for me to get to the top. Sports PSP, we're almost at 75,000 subscribers. So we're going to continue to go and continue. I want to get to 100,000 by the end of this year. I feel pretty good about my chances. As long as I have the right crew around me, as long as I put in the work, anything's possible. Hard work will always pay off. So please go like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as IG Sports PSP, as well as TikTok Sports PSP3. Sunday night after the Super Bowl, if Champ and BRF are available, we'll probably do a Super Bowl post-game reaction about what we witnessed in the Super Bowl and so much more. Please stay tuned to that. We're going to have a blast on that one. But fellas, always a pleasure having y'all on the pod. Everyone, please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl weekend. Please, as Champ said, family, it's important to be around family. Stay with loved ones. Stay with friends and family. Please cherish the moments that you have because nothing is promised. Nothing is promised. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Stay safe. God bless and peace.